has. For instance, Africa's governing body, that's remained pretty silent. A lot of Asian nations as well are yet to play their hand. We're yet to find out really where they stand.
Elsewhere, we understand Newcastle have rejected Arsenal's first official bid for Bruno Guimaraes. Talks will continue between the two clubs while Guimaraes joins Newcastle's pre-season camp in La Manga later today. And Celtic have been drawn against Austrian champions Lask in the Champions League playoff round. Martin O'Neill's side will be at home in the first leg on the 18th or 19th of August.
talkSPORT News.
Reform UK wants to use the Royal Navy to intercept small boats in the Channel, and farmers are giving up growing food after repeated heat waves causes their harvest to fail. Amelia's got more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. For a limited time only, get 20% off a set of 4 selected premium tyres in our big summer sale. Visit quickfit.com and book today. Conditions apply.
Largely dry in the south today with sunny spells, feeling very hot. Cloudier further north and west with outbreaks of rain at times, particularly across Scotland.
This is Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs back with you through until 4 here on talkSPORT, where this afternoon it's always, though, Andy, you have a week off and the biggest story in world sport breaks, of course.
It's very true.
I'm talking about Saltburn 2s and Clickgate.
Oh, Clickgate, yeah.
More on that in a moment. We think we may be to blame, but more on that in a moment.
Clicky Ponting, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Coming up over the next 3 hours, we'll discover what we should read into pre-season. We'll find out more about the front runner to replace Infantino at FIFA, and why are some clubs so nervous about employing ex-players as coaches.
We'll also wonder why boxing has welcomed Russia back with open arms. We'll chat to the latest management duo to take charge of Lincoln City, and if Celtic win tonight, is the SPL title race over?
It's all over. All this, plus we'll get a new...
It's hard to claw those points back, isn't it, really?
It is.
From Rangers' point of view.
There's all this, plus we'll get a Newcastle fans' take on their turbulent summer so far, plus all the latest transfer tittle-tattle, and our Euro expert looks at the big football stories across the continent.
Yes, that's right. It is 4 minutes past 1. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon, Paul. And we're in our 26th great year here at talkSPORT.
Well, 26, great. That's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
how are you spelling great?
The same way they did at the end of the Pierce show I went to.
Yes, you went to it. You were
26th great year. It says out. So
you went to the end of the Pierce show at Cromer.
Very good.
What's going on at the end of the pier at Cromer?
Well, it's variety. It's your typical British variety. Show lots of medleys, of songs, bit of comedy, some people flying.
You
about.
Laughed, you cried.
Oh, it was all there. All of it.
Good turnout,
fantastic.
Decent crowd.
Very good crowd, yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
They didn't have an end of the pier show where I was. It was in Montenegro.
No, it's not big in Montenegro.
Yeah, it wasn't massive. The Doolies weren't on or anything.
And I don't know what it is about talkSPORT and broken chairs. We've come in today, and the first chair that I had the option of.
Oh, that was fun. I wish I could have got a picture of it. It was where the hydraulics had, not on Andy, I mean on the chair. The hydraulics had
Might
gone.
as well have been.
And it was set in the ultra low position. He's not the tallest of men. And it was like something from the Beano.
My head wasn't
his
even
head.
above the desk.
Chin was resting on the desk.
I found this chair. This chair will be fine.
Yeah.
It's got no arm on it.
Yeah.
Where's the arm gone? I don't get what happens to the chairs here.
They're collector's items. I think the work placement people come in, they just nick an arm of a chair as a memento. We are the home of broken chairs here at talkSPORT,
That's
aren't
right.
we?
That's our proud
been,
boast.
Over the 26 years, it has been a recurring theme.
It is. It's incredible. I was very interested to reading all this stuff about Infantino and UEFA.
It's a shame because before all this, he struck me like a really good bloke.
Yeah.
And it was such a shock to see him go rogue like this.
I know.
And want to do something so appalling.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah.
But
I mean, what a piece of work on every level. Where do you even start? I know people are probably sick of hearing about it, but it's not going away. And we are going to find out more about the Canadian football administrator that is seen as the person that could oust him, who could get sufficient support, because obviously anybody from Europe's not going to get that level of support, and that goes back
I just think
many decades.
he's overreached. He was going so far, and he was getting so much in his favour and how he wanted
He thought he was untouchable, didn't he?
Yeah,
Clearly,
absolutely.
he thought this was the moment to pounce. And then in that company, dealing with the sort of people he was dealing with during this World Cup, he saw his main chance, didn't he, really? He said, I mean, honestly, hashtag worse than Blatter. How long have we been saying that? It's quite shocking, really, isn't
But
it?
the fact that UEFA ordered him not to destroy any material that says it all, doesn't it, when it comes to how they view him?
Yeah.
They obviously think he would likely do that.
Well, there's a lot of stories suggesting people inside FIFA want him out, and Martin Ziegler from the Times done an amazing
What a
job on
brilliant
this
job
story.
by him, yeah.
Martin's very well, and the fact that FIFA was leaking, and then they wanted someone of Martin's caliber to put the story out there tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean,
It does.
So anyway, we're going to get the latest on that. We're going to have a chat with James Restall, the Times head of sport, and see where we're at currently. But I agree with what Jeff was saying. He's still got a lot of support amongst people that he looks after, really, in world football.
He's
terms.
slippery.
Yeah.
He's not going to resign. He's going to have to be forced out.
I mean,
There's no way he'll resign.
No, I
surely.
mean, if a 64-team World Cup would get a few more people on side, it's whether he's still got the numbers, whether there's enough support now. Because there is a lot of resistance. A lot of other people in world football hate to see the power and the money in Europe. And so just because our FA and the Welsh FA and UEFA might want him out doesn't mean he's going anywhere at the moment. Now, he'll cling on by his fingernails as long as he
I
can.
think so. And mind you, that's not the biggest scandal in world sport.
No.
Animal rights activists want the World Black Pudding Championships to go vegan.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, I mean, can you get a vegan black pudding? I don't know. I mean,
Apparently
is
you
it
can.
possible?
Well, I don't know what it's made of. Competitors are already given the option to throw vegan alternatives.
Okay. Well,
They're not happy about it, though.
That is huge, Andy. I can't believe that story has passed me by.
Brian Linford, he's still going strong. He's kept going. Now he's on to football shirts.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, your friend who writes to
the Daily Star. He's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
happy that Brentford have decided to keep a 2-year cycle. It's actually not a bad idea on the shirt. So instead of changing,
Oh, is that what they've done?
Yeah, instead of changing the shirt every season,
Yeah.
change it every 2 seasons, which I think is fair enough. Brentford 1, Prem Clubs 0, giving a 2-year cycle on football shirts, keeping them affordable. 90 THFC, 89.99 CFC are the dearest shirts. Consumer experts say year after year it smacks of blatant greed for families. I don't know why that's
Sorry, in case you're wondering what Andy's doing, the guy writes in capital letters, so Andy shouts the capital letters.
And hard-earned cash, 11 are 60 to 80, 7 are 85.
Yeah.
Expensive. All I say to Brian is, not compulsory.
The story in American sport, there's been a number of them. I guess LeBron moving was the biggest since we were off. But the other one is the Athletics rookie shortstop, Joshua Kuroda-Grauer, who sustained a ruptured testicle after he took one. And then we're so twee about a ball, in football especially. So you've got, in football these days, you've got like a co-commentator sitting there and someone gets hit there and they all go, oh, seems to have been struck amidships. Who uses that? Who uses that term? Who hasn't used that term since Captain Cook? Or they say things like, oh, you don't want to get hit there. It gets a bit...
Yeah,
it's a bit Beavis and Butthead, doesn't it?
The lower stomach.
No one ever goes, "Cool, that went right in the butt," do they? No one
It's
ever
the
goes.
worst thing. I was keeping wicket in a school match many moons ago.
Yeah,
and I wasn't wearing a box. Big error there, sort of a rookie error.
yeah.
And I went to take one on the leg side. I just missed it completely. It hit me flush.
I'd love to have seen that.
I went the same colour. It was a high side. I went the same colour as the pitch. White. Honestly. It wasn't great.
Well, this guy playing in this game against the Arizona
We've probably been
Diamondbacks.
paid a lot more than I was.
23-year-old took a fastball to the nethers. Felt
Nethers.
That's it. Yeah,
The Nethers.
the nethers. Took it. Because we beat around the bush. You know what I mean. And so all the like Forbes magazine did. What is a ruptured testicle?
Really?
That was a feature. Yeah.
They normally talk about people in how much money they
Don't look it up. There's diagrams and everything.
500.
I tell you what it is. It's painful. And the guy carried on playing until he realised that it was more than just, that terrible pain you get in the pit of your stomach that doesn't quite go off. I am quite loath to do this as we've just walked back through the door. But let's use nethers, shall we? If we're going to use a euphemism, have you ever been hit in the nethers? And in what
in the nethercots?
Yeah. In the Stewarts. Let us know in sporting terms and how did it play out? And don't be too graphic because it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But go on, let's salute Croder Grouser, the young lad who carried on having taken a 90-mile-an-hour fastball to the groin. Oh, the groin, that's the other one, isn't it?
The groin.
Yeah.
Lower mid.
Talksport.com/H&J. Text to 81089, tweet to TSH&J. 03717223344 and get in touch on anything this afternoon. We're still awaiting the white smoke from Newcastle on the new manager, don't we? It's not been completely confirmed.
Yeah, if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be pretty concerned actually about.
They have turned down the latest bid for Bruno Guimaraes. We'll find out more about that later on. Yeah. But you do get the sense once they hit the money, Newcastle.
Arsenal are doing a lot of low bidding this window. I mean, I don't think anybody else would come in for him, but if they did, they'd lose him. I think you've got to look at the price of Tonali,
yeah,
and think, well, he's got to be worth something.
Tonali 3 years younger.
Yeah, you allow for that, allow for the contract, but still, you've got to be looking at 70 or 80 million.
I think you've got to be looking at 80, and maybe that's what Newcastle want. Maybe they'll reach an agreement, but at the moment, they're not anywhere near the figure. Apparently.
Talking of Brentford and football shirts, their new shirt was featured in an article in the Sun on Saturday about some of the new interesting shirts, and it's a kind of pinstripe number. Have you seen it? There he is, look with the pinstripe.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you wear it with a bowler hat.
Yeah,
it's a strange idea
quite nice
for a football shirt, but there we go.
Yeah, by the way, Stephen in Hackney says, talking of broken chairs, how's the upholstery held up on your armchair? We had an upholstery gate. Andy used to keep getting calls during the show, and he actually took one day from an upholsterer who was doing a bit of work on his sofa.
Yeah, no, it's also work.
It's a perfect
work. Oh, very good.
Good workmanship.
Good workmanship. I should have gone with leather rather than leatherette. I regret that.
Leatherette.
Well, that's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, I bet that's nice in this hot weather. Lying on some exposed leatherette in 28-degree heat.
Not great, no.
I was a vegetarian for 8 years, and there is a veggie alternative, black pudding, says Mark the Villa fan. Sorry, you just joined us. We've been looking at all the big stories. However, and no pun intended, but don't the animal rights mob have bigger fish to fry than the World Black Pudding Championship?
Yeah, it is a strange thing that they get involved
little victories, isn't it?
I suppose so, yeah.
They need to leave. Oh, Mark's got suddenly very angry. He says, they need to leave people alone. Sorry, Mark. He's obviously not happy about Villa at the moment. Right in the Andy Jacobs. Now, maybe that should be the phrase that people use. That could be beautiful. That's right. Yeah, the Jacobs, they do that.
The crackers, yeah.
That's it. Okay, we'll leave it there. We've lowered the tone already. James Restall, the Times head of sport's going to come in and raise it, thankfully.
Hopefully.
As we talk about Infantino update we're looking for, of course.
What might have happened if Martin Ziegler hadn't got involved?
Would have railroaded it through, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's CONCACAF who've said, talking about having given the media a kicking, Infantino, and FIFA turned on them, for CONCACAF to say we have to applaud the role.
I always go there in October for a nice cappuccino.
Yeah, the CONCACAF. Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, they've been saying nice things about the press and their role in this for a change. And it was one of James's fine journalists that broke the story. James joins us in a few moments' time. Mickey Gray on what we should read into pre-season or not. Is the SPL title race over if Celtic win tonight? And lots more besides in the first hour. We're here as always with our good friends at Tool Station. First up, Tool Station.
It's an amazing story, actually. It's almost a forgotten man. This is about Mikhailo Mudryk, who has been allowed to come back to football immediately for Chelsea. So You'll remember that this is a man who had a 4-year ban handed down to him for breaching anti-doping rules. He's not played since November 2024 after what was described as an adverse finding of meldonium, which is a banned substance in his system. He appealed against that sentence to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who have today said that because he accepted breaking anti-doping rules, they have agreed that the time served already is enough of a punishment. So Mykhailo Mudryk is available to play for Chelsea with immediate effect.
Can he even still play football? Is he good enough? He's not played football for 3 years.
It's been nearly 2 years. Well, Chelsea have released quite a long statement today, obviously welcoming the decision. They've talked about what a difficult period of time it has been for Mykhailo Mudryk. And I think this is the important paragraph here in the statement. We welcome the acknowledgement that advances in the applicable scientific reporting standards for more reliable testing mean that had Misha's sample been analysed under today's technical requirements, it would not have been reported as a positive test and no anti-doping rule violation would have resulted. That is an important part of the context surrounding the agreed resolution and allows everyone involved to move forward.
Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs back with you through until 4 here on talkSPORT. Let's hear from the former chairman of the FA, David Bernstein. He joined Jeff Stelling and Andy Townsend on breakfast this morning, was asked about Gianni Infantino's future as FIFA president.
I think he's a sort of a dead man. I describe him as a dead man staggering as opposed to walking. I think so, but I think, I was very delighted that UEFA took such a tough stand and put a red line that they would not participate unless there's in the World Cup, unless this proposal was withdrawn. I think they should extend that and say they would not play in the World Cup if Infantino continues as president.
Yeah, well, that's David Bernstein. Joining us in the studio now is the Times head of sport, James Restall. Hi, James.
Hiya, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, well, I mean, your paper has been front and centre of this story because Martin Ziegler, one of your own, who broke the story, we said CONCACAF in their statement mentioned the media and the role that they'd played in this. That it was a very different take, obviously, from Infantino on the media's role. But so you've been front and centre of this. Must have been an interesting few days.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And I think first and foremost, it's been a real important reminder of the value of the free press and investigative journalism, and the important role it plays in holding the powerful to account. If Martin hadn't published that initial report on Tuesday, I don't think anybody would have been any the wiser as to what was being planned behind the scenes. Martin also 5 years ago, you may remember, broke the story about the European Super League, and the parallels between these two stories are the speed at which the opposition to both proposals mobilised. And in the case of the Super League, it was quite organic. It was football fans protesting outside stadiums and forcing their clubs to backtrack. And in this case, we saw it at an institutional level where UEFA mobilised a very, very speedy response and deployed what was being termed the nuclear option, which was threatening a boycott from the World Cup. But in both cases, neither of those stories would have come to light had it not been for high quality investigative journalism.
When Martin phones you then and says, James, I've got this, FIFA are looking to sell off part of the World Cup, you're thinking, right, okay, then the work starts, because obviously you want to make sure you don't want to get yourself in a situation where you're going to get yourself in the paper into trouble, so you've got to make sure everything's nailed down, haven't you?
It's always, these stories are always a huge team operation. We hold ourselves to the highest standards, so we make sure that we do everything the right way. We're as accurate as we can be. We've left no stone unturned, and then it's also a huge team effort in pushing the message out there. We were recording podcasts every day, reacting to the developments. We were pushing the lines out on social media, and we were planning the coverage with comment pieces and analysis that was kind of following every development. And you need a team to be able to support the work that Martin's doing.
You've been surprised by, or do you think Infantino has been surprised rather by the reaction to this? Did he think he could just push this through and nobody would say anything? Presumably he did.
Presumably he did, and I think that's why I think it has been so. It's surprised all of us how quickly the opposition has mobilised. But I said last week, it's already felt like football's been reaching a bit of a breaking point moment in terms of the number of games is ever increasing, competitions are always expanding, and at the heart of this ultimately was the spectre of bigger club World Cups, more World Cups being held more than once every 4 years. And I think once the game gets to that kind of breaking point, that's when the opposition really starts to bare its teeth.
There's no respect for the players, is there? The player welfare. It is all about greed. It's all about money. I mean, when you look at what this would have meant to Infantino if it had gone through, you can only say it is about greed, isn't it?
I know people do get their tiny violins out when they think about highly paid elite footballers, and they've got to play another game, have they? But actually, if you look at the World Cup that's just gone, and you look at players like Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka, who are clearly showing the weight of a season where they've been having to fight on all fronts for their club and play international football as well. That kind of situation is going to happen more often if the number of games just keeps increasing and the number of tournaments keeps increasing.
One thing FIFA really need to do is maybe have an 8-year maximum. I know they've changed things a little bit post-Blatter, but not a great deal. And they say it's sort of free and fair elections, but the sort of power broking that goes on and the way that he networks and looks after, he would argue he's pumped money into certain nations and grown their football, etc. But the sort of, it's just all a bit of a power struggle. You feel like you should limit the term times and you wouldn't get people so powerful.
It's going to be a really interesting moment for football, this, in general, once the dust settles on this initial story. These moments don't come along all that often, and there is a real opportunity here for a serious look at the governance and how things move forward and how we want the game to be run. And I think, will this opportunity be squandered or not? And that's the question. I think the long-term question going forward from this.
It's very hard to find. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit later on with our Canadian football expert about Victor Montagliani, who's being tipped from CONCACAF to potentially run against him. you can, if you're that powerful and you've been in business, you've done different things, there'll always be a stick to beat you with. There'll always be a story that people could pick up and say, is that person the right person to do it? Because similarly, they're in these incredible positions of power. So to find somebody who's purer than pure is always going to be very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the what we've seen over the last few months and years is a gradual creep of more and more egregious things. We saw the incident with Balogun at the World Cup, the FIFA Peace Prize. I think, sort of at a basic level, FIFA needs a president that isn't going to do these things and is going to look after the game fundamentally, and put that first, and not make those political things.
Not just the game, the fans.
And it seems pretty clear, and I'm sure, Marty won't give his sources away, but people within FIFA didn't like what they saw, which is probably how this story got out there. So it's pretty clear that there are good people within FIFA, and we've seen one or two of them step down in key roles, and just the kind of just the general people that work there that love football and care about football don't like what's been going on and don't like sort of one man being in charge to this extent.
I think that's the thing. It's if you looked at Kevin Lamore's statement on Friday, and talking about, and he's the chief operating officer, and he had no idea about these. He says he had no idea about these proposals, and I think that doesn't point to good governance.
No,
if you're going to launch something and we don't know how close it was to being launched, but if this is something that would be a major change for the organisation, you need to have the key people across that organisation consulted, you would think.
What's the likely scenario from now then? I mean, how many people would need to turn against him, have a vote of no confidence in him, to sort of trigger a proper vote of no confidence? Could see him go sooner rather than later, or will it probably go all the way to March?
I read it was 20%. Or 20.
So you'd need 41 member nations to propose a vote of no confidence at an emergency meeting. The FIFA Council could also demand his resignation, although that wouldn't be binding. So if he continues to limp on, it's whether an alternative candidate can be put up for election who is going to get the numbers to defeat Infantino at the ballot box.
Right. I wouldn't write him off. And if you think he hated England before, wait till, if he survives, can you imagine what he'd be like with us now?
We do know it's not going to be. We were saying earlier on that the history of sort of going back to sort of Sir Stanley Rouse, who sort of ran FIFA, and then the pushback from Haviland, who wanted him out. They always felt that the FA were running world football and didn't like it. There's still a little bit of that around, so it's unlikely to be anybody from UEFA, you would think, that would be the sort of stalking horse, if you like, which is probably why the guy in Canada is the front runner at the moment.
If we don't get 2066, that's it, I'm off.
100 years of hurt. Cryogenically roll out Frank and David to sing that Heads in a Glass Box like Futurama. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now, isn't it? And you think we're playing the long game, or could we be looking at a new dawn this time next Monday, James?
I mean, given how quickly this story has moved, and it felt last week that there was a development almost every couple of hours. It was unbelievably fast paced. I would think Infantino will try to cling on for as long as he can. But I feel like we're looking at March at the latest. I would say, but who knows? I mean, it's been the most extraordinary week.
His arrogance is breathtaking, isn't it? To think that, especially dealing with a member of the sort of Trump inner circle, that people wouldn't think this is dodgy, that people would find this acceptable.
It is a story and a half. Well, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll let you get down to the Bentley showroom so Martin can choose the colour he wants. So we'll let you get down there now.
But definitely a shoe-in for the awards ceremony.
Well, he should be. I mean, it's the story. It is some story, isn't it?
I honestly, I said it at the beginning. I'm really pleased that we're talking about investigative journalism and the important role of the press in all of this.
Absolutely. Nice one, James. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
James Restall, head of sport of the Times. We're going to be having a chat with the Vice President of UEFA a little bit later on, and finding out more about the man that could potentially take over from Infantino, should that happen. Mickey Gray's up next, though. We're going to talk about the importance or not of pre-season.
let's take a very quick call on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Oliver is a Liverpool fan. Morning, Oliver.
Morning, how you doing, lad? You all right?
Yeah,
All right,
really
Oliver.
good, yeah. Would you like to see Trent back?
All good. I'd absolutely love to see Trent back. I think Mo Salah missed him very much last season. Obviously, Salah had a pretty poor season last season, but when he come back with Real Madrid, it was very frosty, and I think the damage is being done, to be honest with you. But I would love to see him back in a Liverpool shirt, yeah.
Look, there's no doubt. Nobody can doubt his quality. On the ball, he's as good as anything, anywhere.
He was winning games from right back. Obviously the Barcelona game in 2019, that cross, and then I think he was very, very important when we won the league with Slot as well. So much quality, from right back.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, brilliant. I think a lot of Liverpool fans would share that view. They'd all love to see Trent back. Oliver, thanks very much indeed.
Maybe Jeff as well. Thanks, Oliver. You wonder though whether the player, having not really done it at Real Madrid, would want to sort of maybe at least stick around for another 6 months to see exactly where he figures and where he fares. He'll know pretty soon. As players, you get the vibe whether or not you're part of the in club or whether you're on the outside of it.
going to be chatting to one of the vice presidents of UEFA, Laura McAllister, a little bit later on in the show for an Infantino update. She was very much front and centre of saying that they would boycott all FIFA competitions, UEFA, if the plan went ahead. And of course, we all know now that Gianni Infantino was backtracked, claiming it was only a consultation.
Meeting with Rubio. What's Rubio got to do with it? Honestly,
I know. Yeah, that coziness with the administration in the States is all pretty worrying. But anyway, more on that with Laura. Pre-season friend. How much did you read into pre-season friendlies? Well, Spurs beat Chelsea the other day with 10 men, Andy. I'm reading lots
I'm reading
into
a lot into that. Now, well, the way I look at it is that the first halves, you know, when the first 11 play the first 11, then you can sort of have a...
How often does that happen these days?
Well, I think it happened on Saturday mostly. Well, Chelsea had about 7 players missing. Spurs probably had a few missing too.
Yeah.
You know, but the strongest teams they can put out tend to play in the first half.
And then it's lots of substitutions, makes them very bitty.
People who are in the shop window, all that sort of stuff.
Well, I woke today, the headline saying Liverpool in for a tough season because they lost to Leeds in a pre-season friendly last night. I don't know how much we should read into it. Let's ask.
I think, in fact, they gave away 2 set play goals, and that was a big problem for them last season. So
maybe some red flags. Mickey Gray has been through it all as a player. And many clubs, including, of course, Sunderland. Good afternoon, Mick.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Andy. How are you doing?
Not so bad. How much did you read into pre-season? I mean, it's the old adage, isn't it? You have a good pre-season, you don't necessarily start the season well. You stink the place out pre-season, and then you can get good results. There seems to be no rhyme or reason, does there?
Yeah, I think you've got that spot on, Paul. I think as soon as you walk back into that dressing room for pre-season, I think the manager just says to you, look, you know, pre-season's about getting fitness and getting yourself as close to 100% as you possibly can. And that's exactly what the players will be thinking. I think that's why, I think Andy just mentioned it there, you know, certain players are getting 45 minutes, other players are getting 60 minutes until you can kind of get to that peak in around about 90 minutes. And it's all about that first day of the season. And I think it's a bit of like light relief. I've got to be honest with you when you're playing the games, because the rest of the time, certainly when I was playing anyway, was running up hills and running in deep sand to try and get your fitness levels up. So when there's a ball around, it's quite nice actually. But I've been watching certain results from probably the top sides in the Premier League in pre-season, and it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. It's just about trying to find the balance of how fit the players are when they come back and hopefully start the season bright.
The World Cup is such a factor as well. Yes. You look at a team like City, I don't know how many players they had at the World Cup, but a lot. So you can imagine the tour that they're undertaking at the moment, it's not really representative of what they're going to do, I don't think.
Well, the thing, Andy, there is, I mean, it's an interesting one. You know, certainly with the Euros and the Club World Cups, etc., from last season, as you'll know from Chelsea, and then obviously the World Cup, what we just had, the players don't get as much rest as what we used to. I mean, we used to get 6 or 7 weeks off. You go away, you wouldn't even think about football for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then you kind of slowly get yourself back into it and make sure that you're ready when you walk through the door for pre-season. But now, you know, they're having about 2 weeks off and they've got to hit the ground running. So it's how do you balance, you know, bringing those players in who've been involved in the World Cup. As you mentioned there, Man City had a lot who went very deep into the tournament as well. And these players are pretty much, you know, they're nearly there. They're nearly 100% fit when they walk through the door for pre-season. So I don't think these new managers, obviously there's been a lot of change, hasn't there, with the coaches and stuff. I don't think they'll worry about it too much because they'll just expect the players to be ready to go.
Yeah.
The fans take it seriously. Oh, God, they're moaning on Saturday on the Chelsea win. You're saying to people, it's just pre-season, stop.
It doesn't matter, does it really?
It's maybe one of the reasons why Eddie Howe's out of a job, because he lost that game 4-1 and then the next day he was out of the job. But I know there's a little bit more into it with Newcastle, but I don't know what's happening at that club right now.
Can you remember a particularly bad pre-season, Mickey, one particular game that springs to mind?
Yeah, I mean, we used to travel away to, I mean, they're going to America and Australia and stuff now. I think when I was at Sunderland, we had Peter Reid, and we used to kind of go to Norway or Sweden and places like that. And we weren't having a good pre-season. I don't think we'd won any of our first 3 games. And I'm not quite sure who the team was who we played, but we were walking out of the tunnel and was kind of caged. And Peter Reid got absolute pelters because we came in at half-time. I think we were losing 1-0. And, you know, this is just a pre-season game. So it's amazing how much the fans take it serious because they're travelling. Obviously, they're spending the hard-earned money and they want to see a good performance. But I think there has to be a realisation that, we're not up to 100% fit. And I don't think you kind of he kind of lived that one down, to be honest with you.
Now, Lenny Yoro has been chatting to the press while they're over in Sweden. And, he's saying that we've got to be thinking about the title. We're moving in the right direction. Do you think that's probably a bit early for Manchester United or not?
Well, I think Man United, what they've got to try and look at, Paul, as well, is they had no European football last season, and also they got knocked out of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup in that first game as well. So they only played 40 games last season. I think the expectations have got to be there, and the players have obviously got to tell people that they're going to be, chasing down the Premier League. They're going to be chasing down, European competitions, and obviously do better in the domestic as well. And I think if they start sending a message out that, they're challenging for the top four even before the season starts, I think there's negativity there straight away. But I was with Brian Robson and Steve Bruce yesterday and a few ex-Man United players. And I think there is optimism there, but I think it's probably going a step too far to say that Man United are ready to win the Premier League. I think, let's wait until the end of this transfer window, see what players walk through the door and see what start to the season they have. But I would probably expect Man United maybe chasing one of those Champions League positions rather than the title.
And you were making the point, it's going to be such a competitive league, isn't it?
So competitive.
Everybody's strengthened. Everybody seems to have spent big money.
Well, the thing with that, Paul and Andy, is, look, it's great, bringing all these new faces through the door, but there's a period of time where certain individuals take a little bit of time to bed into the new style, obviously the new country, if they're coming from abroad. You look at some of the signings that Liverpool made last season, and we thought they were going to be world beaters, Wirtz being one of them. I think this might be the season that he kind of shows us how good he really is, because he was an expensive player. So I think there's certain players will just bed into the Premier League. They'll take to it like a duck to water. I think there'll be other ones that maybe take a little bit of time as well. You're playing in different leagues as well, so they're not up to that, let's say, hell for leather, 100-mile-an-hour football like the Premier League can be at times. So I think there might be a few surprises in the first couple of games, but I think the old adage will be that Arsenal will be there, Man City, I'd probably say Liverpool as well. That's maybe the three that I'm looking at that are going to be challenged for those top three spaces. I think they'll start brightly, and maybe the other sides around them, Man United, Tottenham, Chelsea, etc., might win a couple of games, but they also might lose a game that you're not expected to.
Yeah, and there's a premium now, isn't there, on Premier League ready players? Everybody wants that now.
Which is why, you pay so much more money for getting them when they're oven ready. Enzo Maresca, let's hear from him. They lost to Inter on penalties, and he was asked afterwards whether they were in the title hunt.
We're going to try to do our best to win titles this season. Premier League is one of the titles that we need to try at least until the end. In terms of a chance, I think in this moment it's too early. What I like is the day by day to help the players to improve, because if you improve players, the team improve, and this is important. And then in terms of a chance, we see.
Enzo Maresca. We often talk, Mickey, about new managers coming in and, maybe they take a season to get used to it, but he knows the club, he knows the setup, he knows a lot of the hierarchy. And from what Antoine Semenyo's been saying, he seems to be getting his ideas across. Semenyo says he's been enjoying training the way he wants to play. So you think they can hit the ground running?
Yeah, I do, Paul. There's no question of that. They've obviously still got the quality. I don't think, Pep Guardiola's left a squad pretty much like Sir Alex Ferguson left behind, if you know where I'm coming from. That squad's kind of ready to challenge for titles, whether it's domestic or European or even the Premier League itself. And you're right to mention Enzo Maresca's worked at the club before. He's won a treble at that club. He knows pretty much everybody at the football club. I think there's a couple of things that maybe look at, and it would more come from the dressing room. No Bernardo Silva. There's other players that have left that dressing room as well. There's talk of Rodri leaving the club as well. And we were talking about serial winners here. And that's very difficult to replace in a dressing room as well. Winners go out of that dressing room, but you need winners to come back into that dressing room. They've been out, they've obviously brought Elliot Anderson, and I think they're not finished there, Man City. I think there will be certain other individual players that walk through the door. John Stones being another one, when I'm talking about the experience of leaving that dressing room. So maybe that's where they're just falling short of Arsenal right now for winning the Premier League title. But if they get off to a good start, they won't be far away, because they've got the quality there. We know they've got goals. It's whether everybody can hit the ground running. Yeah, inexperience, I suppose. There's a few younger players in that squad now, but they're all fantastic players. And Maresca, as you said there before, I think he knows that club inside out anyway.
How they're refereed will be interesting as well, because obviously with Pep, the refs, I think, respected him. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, respected him. A beautiful euphemism.
Yeah.
Just looking very quickly at Sunderland's pre-season. York City 1, Sunderland 5, Liverpool 4, Sunderland 2, Leeds 1, Sunderland 0, but Leeds beating everybody at the moment. Wrexham 0, Sunderland 1. Who would have thought 10 years ago, if I'd said to you Wrexham would be playing Sunderland in Philadelphia in a pre-season friendly, you would have laughed at us, Mickey.
Yeah, you're right there. Maybe it's down to certain owners at a football club why that game's gone ahead, but it's great, isn't it? I mean, Leeds United, you mentioned there before, having a brilliant pre-season. Who knows what we're going to get from them this season in the Premier League, but they're trying to add to the squad as well. But I think I'm happy with Sunderland. There was 14 fresh faces came in last summer. I don't think there's going to be that many this time around, but the squad needs to be bulked because of obviously the Europa League they've got this season. So there's a guaranteed 8 games in Europe, and they're going to enjoy that travelling around Europe. I know it's 4 away games, 4 home games, but if they can do well in the Europa League, and obviously I would say a mid-table finish in the Premier League, you'd snap the hands off right now if you're a Sunderland supporter.
Thanks, Mickey. We'll catch up with you soon.
Pleasure, guys.
There's talkSPORT's man in Manchester, the former Sunderland defender Mickey Gray, joining us. And, of course, we'll be hearing from him throughout the season. Coming up very shortly, Laura McAllister, the UEFA Vice President, will be joining us for a chat. Was very forceful when it came to making the decision to boycott FIFA competitions should the proposal to sell off the World Cup go ahead. Of course, we know there's been a climb down, so it'd be interesting to catch up with Laura now and get our take on what has gone on and what she thinks may happen next. So we'll be doing that for you shortly. We're here with Toolstation. Only got time for one stop. First stop, Toolstation.
Noticed that on social media, Curtis Jones liked the posts where Inter Milan announced Stones as a player.
He's acting like a spoiled brat. I saw his behaviour last night on the pitch.
This was after the friendly.
Yeah, I understand the frustration that you should have got the armband. He's been, he's a scouser. He's been there 20 years. Blah 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 blah. But to act like that and for it to carry on, because it went on for about 2 minutes.
Was it him and Dominic Szoboszlai?
Yeah, he was having a go at Szoboszlai, who handed the armband over, I think, to Tsimikas. Mm-hmm. And I believe Curtis Jones had the temper tantrum over that. It's just like that behaviour can't happen. Not from a graduate from the academy. He's too into himself. So if he wants to go,
source of his frustration, not so much the captain's armband in a pre-season friendly, it's the fact he wants to leave. Is it?
Yeah. Okay. So he wants to leave. Well, okay. Now Liverpool have to get the best deal for the football club. That's how it works. Okay. You don't get to throw your toys out of the pram and do it slowly, knowing him, and then act like that. I just don't understand it. You're playing for one of the biggest football clubs in the world. You came through the system. Behave. Stop. That's all eyes are on you. That's not behind closed doors. That might go on in training and all those things, but you don't want to see that going on actually for millions of people to watch.
And it's not great for Andoni Iraola, fresh in the manager.
No, and I'm sure he'll move past that. And I think Szoboszlai was asked in the press conference, and he didn't even talk about it. But it's just you hate seeing stuff like that. I really do. I think it's so petulant. Do you know what I mean? So, and then when you're liking Inter Milan's post, okay, we get it. You want to go to Inter Milan. Probably last 5 minutes out there.
Paul Hawksbee, Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. It's been a whirlwind few days at UEFA, from the point of discovering that there was this FIFA forward enterprise that would see part of the World Cup being sold off, to a decision to boycott FIFA competitions if this happened, to a climb down from Gianni Infantino. And even stories suggested today in the Telegraph that legal action could follow around the main protagonists involved in this FIFA forward enterprise scheme. So joining us now to chat about that, somebody who's been very front and centre of this whole thing at UEFA, the Vice President, joining us this afternoon. Laura, good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yes. I mean, can you take us back, Laura, to the first moment when you discovered this plan was afoot?
Well, we discovered the same time as everyone else, of course, which is part of the problem, because there was no due diligence or consultation or process by which we were involved in any discussions about the plan. And we felt very, very strongly that this was the wrong thing for football. The principle of selling off the crown jewels in the men and women's World Cups to private equity means you change the principles and the objectives of football even. And as custodians of the game, then it's our responsibility to stand up to that, because once you bring in a profit motive, the duty becomes to the shareholders, not to the players and the clubs and the supporters, who are really the lifeblood of football.
And we've already seen a kind of creep during this World Cup and before into areas that don't sit right, I think, with most football fans, and obviously with you at UEFA.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's critical to say this is just the latest in a series of interventions by Infantino and FIFA that run counter to everything we believe in football. You know, the decisions we make about the governance of the game are based on improving how we run the sport to make sure that everyone can take part, that supporters have access to reasonably priced tickets, that players' welfare is prioritised. But there's been a whole series of interventions by Infantino and FIFA around the FIFA Peace Prize awarded to Donald Trump without any consultation, the political interference in the Balogun red card overturning during the World Cup, the way in which hydration breaks have operated, essentially creating a quarterization of the game rather than the traditional two halves. So there's plenty of history to this, really. It wasn't just a one-off intervention by Infantino, and maybe you want to see it as the straw that broke the camel's back.
Sure. I was going to say that, given all that, did it come as a surprise that he'd try something like this?
Well, it certainly came as a surprise that something of this magnitude would be just thrown out there, and a kind of expectation that the national associations or the federations would go along with it. I mean, clearly there were financial bribes attached to it because the money involved was significant. But I think what was most pleasing for us, particularly in Europe, where there are a lot of very small nations, you talk about countries like Liechtenstein and Andorra and San Marino and Malta and Cyprus and so on. That's a lot of money to their budget should they have got their hands on this. But the fact they were all prepared to speak so strongly with a united voice from UEFA and reject the proposals tells you a lot about the principles that exist, I think, in the real hearts of football administrators.
Did some need persuading, though, Laura? Because, as you said, that's a lot of money for small FAs. We did hear very early on that I think the Czech FA were broadly in agreement with it. I don't know if that was true or not, but do you feel like you've got a kind of a unanimous block in UEFA now?
Yes, yeah, I do. I mean, and I understand why nations would be interested in such a large offer of, what the final amount would have been close to $40 million. So, that's several times the turnover of some small federations. So, of course, they're going to look at it. But I think all of the federations then were clear that this was something that was existential for our sport, that it could really undermine the very principles around how we operate. There would be, for example, a prioritization of increasing the number of teams at World Cups. You would never see a move away from dynamic ticket pricing because profit would have been everything. So it wouldn't have served players, their welfare, or the fans in any shape or form. So I think the national associations were very clear that this was our responsibility to stand up and prevent this happening, hence the boycott threat.
Infantino is reported to be meeting with Marco Rubio. It suggests that he's definitely not going to give up and that he's still looking for support.
Marco Rubio, a powerful man in the world of politics, but he's got absolutely nothing to do with football. I just wonder what can be gained from that, Laura.
Well, who knows? I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that, obviously, because the relationships that exist between Gianni Infantino and the US president's office are significant, as we've seen in the recent World Cup. But I think for us in Europe, we have to operate differently. We run football in Europe, and we don't need to try and drive political pressure from anywhere for what we do, because I think we're always trying to act at least in the best interests of the game and make sure that we leave the game in better health than when we took over. But I think that's unfortunate, because political interference of that kind in football really never takes us to a good place. So let's see, but we stick to our guns in Europe, and I was really pleased that the Welsh FA issued the statement first this morning about withdrawing support for Infantino, because it shows that the principles and the ethics of the sport are what drives us on.
And I think we're awaiting a similar approach from the English FA, aren't we? But that hasn't been confirmed yet.
Yeah, I mean, I hope others follow our lead, whether that's England or other European nations, because the more unity we have around this, the greater power to our elbow. And if all 55 nations in Europe, some didn't send a letter of support, of course, but if everybody withdraws that, had they submitted it, then I think it gives us a lot more leverage in what happens next. I think this is a crisis of leadership, not of one individual, and we need to be part of the debate now about how we create a better culture around the governance of football and make it more in tune with what the fans want, particularly, but also what the clubs and players want too.
And just finally, Laura, if Gianni Infantino doesn't step down and goes into the election next March, would you welcome a candidate to stand against him?
I think there has to be a candidate against Infantino now. But the important thing is that candidate can unite the opposition to him across the world. Clearly, we've made our voice heard well in Europe, as have the Asian Federation and CONCACAF. But, we need to have a candidate that can really unite everyone across the world to ensure that he or she is capable of beating Infantino. So let's see how the next days and weeks move, because things are happening very fast. But I'd be very surprised if there wasn't an alternative candidate.
Yeah, as we said, it has been a real whirlwind. We appreciate your time, Laura. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Laura McAllister, the Vice President of UEFA and former Welsh international footballer.
I'm putting forward Brian Linford of Pontefract.
Well, yeah, you get the odd shouty moment, but we're going to find out more about the...
Couldn't be worse.
The man who, Laura said, it's got to be someone who could get the football world to unite. There is a bit of history between UEFA and FIFA, so it's unlikely to
I think it has to be somebody
come
outside.
from Europe. The head of CONCACAF is very much favoured, and we're going to find out a little bit more about the man that could be stepping up to take Infantino on a little bit later on in the show. It is Hawksbee and Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and we'll get the sports headlines for you next.
It's interesting, this situation with Vinicius Junior, because there were some reports at the weekend that he'd agreed personal terms with Arsenal. Rock Nation, who represent the Real Madrid star, have released a statement hitting out fake news. They said Rock Nation Sports International and our entire team cannot stand idle when unprofessional and uninformed media publish fake and damaging information for attention-seeking purposes. This is especially unacceptable when it personally targets our clients without any foundation. It's disruptive, harmful and libelous, they say. Media outlets and journalists need to hold themselves more accountable. Now, if Vinicius Junior was that keen on a move to Arsenal, would his agency really have gone so strong in the statement?
No, I think. Look, they've been playing the game, haven't they? Let's be honest. I think Vinicius Junior wants to stay in Real Madrid. I think that's where he sees himself. He's probably using Arsenal to some extent to try and, get probably another 100 grand more on his already probably £1 million a week contract. So for me, Crookie, I think I'm expected that he's going to be staying at Real Madrid. I'll be very surprised if we see him in the Premier League and playing for Arsenal next year.
It's a real tall order, isn't it, for any club in the Premier League to tempt a player from Real Madrid. I was speaking over the weekend. I think it was Darren Goff maybe made the point, or maybe Tony Cascarino, Dennis Bergkamp in the mid-90s when he left Inter Milan. Serie A was the powerhouse then of European football, to join Arsenal was a real surprise. Would this be comparable?
I think it would be, yeah. I think it's probably bigger.
Russia, of course, have been very much a sporting pariah since the war in Ukraine started, and other matters around drug testing, etc. But boxing, amateur boxing, has welcomed as the Russians back. We're going to discuss that and other boxing matters with our own Gareth A. Davis after Max Scott with the sports headlines.
Talk Sport.
Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon. The Vice President of UEFA, Laura McAllister, has just told talkSPORT why they're so strongly against Gianni Infantino and his plan to sell stakes in the World Cup.
As custodians of the game, then it's our responsibility to stand up to that, because once you bring in a profit motive, the duty becomes to the shareholders, not to the players and the clubs and the supporters, who are really the lifeblood of football.
With Gianni Infantino clinging desperately onto power, we understand he now wants the Trump administration to help keep him on as FIFA president. As we broke earlier, Infantino's set to have a meeting with the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio today. It comes as the English FA looks set to follow Wales in withdrawing their support for Infantino. talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs, who's been across this all summer, has more.
One of the reasons why Infantino hasn't yet stood down is because behind the scenes he'll be manoeuvring to understand how many votes he's still got, and if the number gets to that magic total of 106, a majority from the 211 members, then Infantino may realise even if he wants to stand again, he's being cornered.
Former FA chair David Bernstein told talkSPORT UEFA should now threaten to not participate in a World Cup while Infantino's still at the helm, because he knows Infantino won't go down easily.
He's one of those who'll be dragged away, sort of screaming, he's in denial from this. But I mean, he has to go. His credibility is completely shot.
Elsewhere, we're told Newcastle have rejected Arsenal's first official bid for Bruno Guimaraes. The two clubs will continue talks over the coming days. Meanwhile, Newcastle have announced the signing of goalkeeper Lukas Hornicek from Braga for £25 million. Get all the latest on the website at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
A man who kept his mum's body in a freezer for nearly 3 years while receiving her benefits has been jailed, and the heat waves are forcing farmers to abandon their crops. Amelia's got more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Sort your new tyres this summer at a time that suits you best from the comfort of your home or work 7 days a week with our mobile tyre fitting service. Conditions apply.
Largely dry in the south today with sunny spells and feeling very hot, cloudier further north and west with outbreaks of rain at times, particularly across Scotland.
convincing warm-up fights for both of them, really. But anyway, it's still a fight we want to see. It's still box office. We'll come on to that shortly. But one of the people you heard chatting about that there, Gareth A. Davis, joins us now. Firstly, to talk about welcoming back, if that's the term we want to use, Russia and allowing their fighters to fight under their flag with their anthems. Gareth A. Davis joins us. Hi, Gareth.
H&J, how are you, broadcast legends? Great.
We're pretty good, thank you. I mean, I know you're big into amateur boxing and followed the sport very closely. What do you make of this? How does this sit with you? Because a lot of sports have been loath to do this, but boxing seems to be prepared to.
Well, we've always said, I think it's an old adage that sports and politics doesn't mix. Neither does sport and war and genuine kind of war on the planet. And I think what you can't accuse athletes from Russia of doing, and that includes the boxers, is they haven't chosen for. I mean, you've got to look back at why the sanctions and the moratorium on Russian athletes in the Olympics and world-class competition was because of their war with Ukraine. And then, the horrific atrocities that have taken place.
It's also doping, though, Gareth, isn't it? I mean, a history of doping in sport, which apparently World Boxing said the testing is going to be upped for the Russian athletes.
Yeah, but if you trace it back to origins, it was down to the treatment of the world by Russia. But I think that there's no doubt that Russia needs to clean up its act. I've worked for the IBA on a couple of occasions, the International Boxing Association, the new world's governing body for the amateurs that aren't recognised now by the Olympics. Obviously, as I say, World Boxing are another organisation looking to oversee the best amateur boxing in the biggest tournament for them in the world outside the World Championships in the Olympics. But I think the athletes should be allowed back. I think there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. And as I say, it's not the athletes' fault. Yes, individuals who are caught cheating should be banned from the sport. But for me, I think to have them not included in games is not right for the individuals themselves. I've known a lot of professional athletes in boxing who've come from Russia, and even some of them who have tested positive. They should be banned, but the others should be entitled to compete. People like Bivol and Beterbiev and these guys, they've had to go and create careers in America because of these scenarios.
Now, we don't really need reminders of just how dangerous and brutal a sport boxing can be, but now and again a story comes along that does remind us, and this is involving Lee Reeves, the Irish fighter. They say he's in a critical but stable condition after he was taken out the ring on a stretcher in Dublin on Saturday. I mean, as I said, it is a reminder to us all, just what a sport this can be.
It's a stark and frightening reminder, Paul, that combat sports, boxing in particular, is an inherently dangerous sport. And even though that our gladiators and our warriors, who I've been around them, it's getting on for 4 decades now. I love the sport. I love our fighters. It is inherently dangerous, and there are moments that break you. And his fight with Gary Cully obviously ended in horrific scenario on Saturday night in Dublin, in what was an amazing night for boxing, but not for Lee and his family, because he's now hopefully recovering in hospital. As you say, he's stable. But I just hope he gets out of there in the next couple of weeks, back to his family safely.
Absolutely. I think we all concur with that. Now, we played the little package at the top for AJ v Fury. I mean, I was reading earlier on today that it could be happening in New York. There seems to be a fresh story about where it's going to be and when it's going to be every day, Gareth.
2 o'clock in the morning at Wembley, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the other one. Where are we at with it at the moment?
All right, well, let me throw some questions back at you guys, because I heard the little the buzz there at the top of the section about AJ and Fury, and obviously I was teasing Spencer Oliver on Saturday night that he's Anthony Joshua's biggest PR guy. I think there is a little bit of a papering over the cracks with that performance. in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I was very concerned about his tensile strength in that first round and how poor his chin looked against a journeyman in Christian Prenga, who can punch. And obviously the drama and conspiracies that came out afterwards when AJ suddenly looked like Superman in the second round and beat Prenga up and stopped him. Would you two rather see, notwithstanding they're into the latter parts of their career, would you rather see these two in a ring in November in New York and know the fight is definitely happening in mid-November, or would you rather wait for it to be in Wembley next year?
Can you keep waiting? I mean,
on with it.
neither of them getting any younger. I mean,
There you go.
if it's somewhere like, if it's going to be Madison Square, if it's somewhere iconic like that, then I think you can sell it to me. If it's in a fairly cold sort of unatmospheric hall in Riyadh, I might not be too keen.
I think we all accept that ideally this fight should have taken place 6 years ago. Ideally, it should have been a 2-fight deal, and ideally it should have been at Wembley. But the paymasters are Netflix, Saudi Arabia, Turkey Al Sheikh, Salah, and this, I'm told, 200 million plus pounds going into the purses for this. They want the American audience to have a say in it because 280 million subscribers to Netflix. They need to make it work in that time zone. I still don't think it's a massive fight for America. I think, as we had on Saturday night when Spencer and I were in the studio for Fight Night, almost every single caller wants the fight to be in the UK, and I back that completely. But we've reached a stage where if we wait till March or April next year, we're into the Moser Talma era by then, and they cease to become relevant. And I think we need them in a ring, and we need it soon, because they are both aging fighters.
And they'll probably have an eye on more than one fight, Gareth.
It wasn't called in that little package for one fight only, and winner takes all.
If only boxing worked like that.
It's not going to happen.
Well, what other sport has a tune-up fight before the main event? You know, you don't. You know, Tyson had a glorified sparring session under the lights of Pattaya, Thailand, and Anthony Joshua was up against a guy who many of us had to look up his record, had never really heard of before, and yet it was almost catastrophic for him in that first 3 minutes of the fight. So, but boxing is an extraordinary sport. You know, it's one of the reasons I love it. It's so unpredictable. But I do think we need those two men in the ring, and hopefully we'll find out in the next week that it is going to be mid-November in New York. Fingers crossed.
And it will be probably Madison Square, because it can't be an outdoor fight, not in November in New York.
Well, no, but we have had. Look, we had 3 years ago, we had Tyson Fury against Derek Chisora on December the 3rd at your beloved Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Paul. And they could risk it at Wembley if they want to, but not at 2 a.m. when it's going to be potentially be -2. You know, for the prime time American audience, it just doesn't make sense. There's too much risk involved, you know, in my view.
I wonder if there'll ever be a book written about this whole saga about why it didn't actually. Somebody must know. One of them obviously doesn't fancy. There must be a reason why this fight has never happened. It can't just be money.
We're sick of quoting Pacquiao Mayweather, aren't we? It's the same. It feels like the same scenario that, I mean, even in an era now where you can get these fights made, we've not been able to get this fight. There was a different era with Mayweather Pacquiao, with TV and different management. But there's no excuses really this time with the money Turkey Al Sheikh, is there?
There shouldn't be. And there is a difference between when Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao fought. I remember writing about. I made a lot of money coming on your show, about 150 times talking about it when it was going to happen. But Floyd Mayweather was still very close to the number one pound for pound in the world at the time. By the way, when he fought Pacquiao, it was 5 years later than their absolute primes, and I don't think there would have been any difference in the outcome. It's the same with this. It's 5 years. 5 years ago, I think Tyson Fury would have outboxed and stopped Anthony Joshua, in my view. That's not because I'm a Fury fanboy. That's just how I see the fight. I still think Fury outboxes him and potentially stops him, but there's more risk for Fury now, and there's more opportunity for Joshua if he throws his hands. It's been about ego, money, and timing. The promoters didn't get on. Fury was taken sideways for his third fight with Deontay Wilder. Eddie Hearn took Anthony Joshua a different route. But Anthony Joshua hasn't even been in the ring with Deontay Wilder, and that's a fight that was spoken about for the last 8 years. But it is, I say, it's money and ego, and there's bragging rights on the line for this fight, because the man that loses this will always be known as the guy that lost to the other rival in this era, this brilliant heavyweight era for British heavyweights and British boxing.
And that's what's so intriguing about. Gareth, we'll catch up with you soon. Thanks very much.
Pleasure, gents. Cheers.
Gareth A. Davis from our excellent Fight Night show every Saturday here on talkSPORT. Saturday Fight Night returns to the Zone this Saturday. Callum Simpson and Troy Williamson meet once again. A huge domestic rematch with unfinished business to settle after their first meeting delivered plenty of drama. You can join the Zone Ultimate for 185 plus fight nights and a minimum 12 plus pay-per-view events every year, including Italma versus Hrgovic, Ryan Garcia versus Conor Benn, all included at no extra cost.
Boxing update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
A little bit of football news. You may recall, actually, just before the World Cup, I ran into a mate of Maurizio Pochettino's who was telling me that he was loving life in the US and doing the job with the US team. Well, it didn't have a bad World Cup. Maybe not as good as some people
not a
thought
lot
they
of
should.
pressure in the job, is there really?
Maurizio Pochettino has agreed a new deal to 2030 with the USA, so he'll take them into the next World Cup. So
they'll get knocked out in the round of 16.
Well, okay, well, maybe you should go in as their hype man then. So Poch is staying in the States as it stands for, and he's going to have to qualify for this one, of course, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's maybe the difference. Although, looking at the way their group shakes down, they shouldn't have too much trouble.
No.
It's Paul Hawksbee and Andy Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Andy Brassel joins us. There are a number of plum jobs in Europe maybe you could have picked up. Maybe that's a question we'll put to Andy Brassel in a few moments' time. We're here with Tool Station, open from 7 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Grab what you need, get on site, get it done. First stop, Tool Station.
I mean, having won the league last season, I mean, you mentioned this to me in the break. Do you think it's more emphasis on the Champions League this time?
Possibly, without wanting to obviously downplay anything else around it. Possibly there will, within the camp, that little bit of extra determination to try and get over the line in the Champions League. They'll be right in there again. Champions League is such fine margins, those matches, when you get to the quarters and the semis of those games, you can be in pole position with 10 minutes to go and go out. It's very, very difficult to absolutely guarantee anything at that level and that stage of that competition. They're the team to beat in the Premier League. I think the squad, I just looked at the squad again, Jeff. They've got so many good players. I mentioned to you about William Saliba obviously being out for a bit, not sure of back injury, and backs can be a bit weird. You can feel like it's all clearing up, then all of a sudden something doesn't feel right again. They can frustrate you. But they've got Nkapie, they've got Calafiori, they've got others that can all play alongside Gabriel and cope admirably in that position. Still got, as far as unless I've missed something, but they've still got players to cover pretty much every position, every eventuality. So they're in great shape, great health. And if they get another big one through the door, another real top draw player, and I'm not sure who that is and in what position that would necessarily be, but I think if they sent a message in that respect, oh, wow, they're going to take some stopping.
Well, obviously, it looks like Bruno Guimaraes is going to be through the door.
He's the one. I mean, do you like him?
No, I love him.
Well, not that tenuous. It's a story we're going to come on to. Phil Collins football-related story.
Yeah.
Coming up shortly with Andy Brassel, Trans Europe Express fame, our European football expert. Hi, Andy.
I wasn't expecting that. I feel like a PSG player because you know that they for many years have come on the pitch to a Phil Collins song. Who said I would? And when they tried to like modernise things and stop playing that when the players came out of the Parc des Princes, people went mad about it, and they had to bring it back.
Really? Oh, I could murder a bar of dairy milk after that. I don't know about you. Let's start with Poch, who's just signed an extension. It's going to stay with the US national team at 2030. Were there still plum jobs out in Europe for him, or had that ship sailed, you think?
Were there ever? I think
well,
it
PSG's
doesn't feel
not
like
a bad job.
Yeah, but like that's kind of where it went wrong, really, wasn't it? You know, after he left Tottenham, he spent ages really deciding on what job to take. And, you know, I think there's a sweet spot for how long you should stay out of the game when you've left a job where you've done really well. Like, I think up to a year is probably fine because, you know, you get that point, however badly it ended in the previous job, where people go, oh, that guy, he was really great, wasn't he? And then it creates a clamour for your services. Once it edges up towards 18 months or over, people are starting to go, what's wrong with him? Why has no one else taken him? And that really is how it works. And he ended up taking a job. And of course, he had a relationship with PSG historically, not with the current ownership, but historically, of course, because he was a player there. But it was never suited to him. It was about babysitting superstars when he's about really developing younger players. So he was forced into this job that wasn't really for him. Chelsea was Chelsea, even though, you know, I think
he did a good
on the
job
pitch,
at Chelsea.
Yeah, it got better as it went on.
But just never really accepted him because of the Tottenham connection. But actually, towards the end of the season, he had the team playing really well.
Yeah, I mean, in that last couple of months at Chelsea, it looked good. But, you know, like we said, Chelsea is Chelsea. Yeah. There's a reason. There are thousands of reasons why it might go wrong. And he's always been in this weird place since he's left Spurs, in that he's a guy with an A-plus salary. Who is he really an A-plus coach? Like, he's an A-plus profile coach. But in terms of, if you were thinking, I'm going to bring a guy into my big club to help us win stuff, would you sign Mauricio Pochettino? I know about that. Yeah, I mean, where are the trophies really outside PSG?
That's it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Phil Collins' son then. He's gone to 1860 Munich. He has signed his son, Matthew. If people of a certain age think, 1860 Munich, not quite the force they used to be, Andy, are they really?
No, they're in the fourth tier. They've been administratively relegated this summer due to financial stuff, and they've been under financial pressure for a long, long time. I saw the last time they were in the top division, I saw the last Munich derby that was played in the league in the old Olympiastadion, which was April 2004. And, of course, after that, both clubs moved together, Bayern and 1860, to the Allianz Arena. And because Bayern were a commercial juggernaut and 1860 weren't, and they really hated it there. Their fans hated it there. They've gone back to Grünwalder now, which is their historic stadium. Basically, they got bought out by Bayern. And financially, even if spiritually it might have been a good decision, financially it wasn't. And they've been in free fall from there, really. So in terms of Matthew Collins, he's a good jobbing lower division footballer. Still quite young. Played at Austria Salzburg, which... talking of big bad behemoths, when Red Bull took over the original Austria Salzburg, there was an Austria Salzburg formed by the fans afterwards, and they're in the second tier now, so he was playing there last season. But, you know, even if they're not a top division club or even a top two division club, 1860, they've got a huge history, huge heritage, so it must be a thrill to put on the shirt.
He's a lot bigger than his dad.
Well, you'd have to be, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Sunicidio.
Yeah, fantastic.
Come on, give us your Phil Collins.
We're going to mainly keep it in the air tonight, etc., etc. No coaching tips. Anyway. Can you cheer up the Newcastle fans finally, Andy, and tell us a bit more about Lucas Hornacek, their new keeper?
He was great last season for Braga, really good. And given they've brought in Erin Jowen for a lot of money, but he's not played top division football before, it seems like a good way to move on, because ultimately you're probably looking at healthy competition between a really good goalkeeper who's on his way up and a really good young goalkeeper who's got a long way to go. Look, Hornacek is massive. He's got such incredible presence about him. He's good coming to get crosses, which I think sometimes you worry a little bit about goalkeepers coming to the Premier League. It was a thing with Hugo Lloris when he arrived. The feeling was he was a little bit slight. It took him a while to get used to that sort of attention. You know, maybe certain other current Tottenham goalkeepers never really got used to that. But Hornacek should be fine with that. Kept a ton of clean sheets last season for a slightly above average Braga side. He was a huge point of them getting themselves to the semi-finals of the Europa League as well. So I think he's really ready for this. He's a terrific goalkeeper. And it's interesting because, of course, they're ripping it up and all starting again. We all expect Bruno Guimaraes to go at some point sooner or later. So Hornacek might be a little bit busier than he would have expected to be in last season's Newcastle, even though that defence has remained largely intact. I'm slightly optimistic for them, though. I mean, obviously they have to start again and they can't really expect Europe or anything next season, but there's lots of good talent there that they've brought in.
I don't think that. I think the opposite. I think they're going to be in trouble. But we'll
see. I mean, they've got some good players, and so
they have. So has everybody, though.
That's true. We'll discuss next time. Andy, for now, thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
That's Andy Brassel. Their latest latest episode of Trans Europe Express is available now. Andy Brassel was joined by Daniele Fisichella, the Italian football expert, and they looked at all the major stories from around the continent. Of course, they spoke about Infantino and FIFA, Roberto Mancini, and paid tribute to the late, great Franco Baresi. That was sad news last week. You can listen to it now on the talkSPORT app or via your favourite podcast platforms. Cara Bentley has joined us in the studio. Cara, you bring us some sad news.
Afternoon, yeah. You'll know that as listeners, we're part of News UK and the News UK family, and colleague, journalist and broadcaster Rod Liddell has sadly died at the age of 66. I don't know if you guys had him on a show. Just heard that he was a Millwall fan.
We followed him, read him, and he was always very entertaining.
I tune in to his Saturday morning show on Times Radio, and I knew he'd been off for a few weeks. I didn't quite know why, but it seems he's died after a short illness.
Died after a short illness, indeed. He passed away at the James Cook University Hospital in Middlesbrough on Sunday evening. He was just 66, sadly, but he's been part of this family, Sunday Times, since 2005, and The Sun since 2011. And he also wrote a weekly column at The Spectator and had a Times Radio show, as you mentioned. His kids said he raised us, as you might imagine, to be inquisitive, brave, and always humorous. So he had his opinions, but he knew how to use his words.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Cara. Thanks very much. It's Hawksbee and Jacobs here on talkSPORT. Why are some clubs not keen to bring back old players to coach at their club? There's been a high-profile example of that in the last 24 hours, and our next guest wants to rail against that, and he'll be telling us why. Plus, Chris Cohen and Tom Shaw are the latest management duo to take over at Lincoln City after the fine job the Cowleys did, and we'll be having a chat with Chris and Tom a little bit later on.
Staying with Liverpool, there are some reports that they have now made a formal offer worth £100 million for Bradley Barcola. I reported a couple of days ago that Barcola wanted to make the move to Anfield, but you've not been too inspired by this possibility.
No, I'm with Jamie Carragher in the camp that I saw him the other day talking about it. We have like 3-4 left wingers already, players who can play there. We need to fill the void by Salah. Frimpong was meant to help with that, but we know he's got medical injury issues last year and not quite what we like to see out wide right when he did play. We need a right winger. It's concerning. And we're going out and we're getting another pacey player who plays on the left majority of the time. So unless Rio's going to get put on the right, square pegs, round holes, all that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't love it because of the money. If he was 60, 70 million, and I get it, he's not. Yeah. You think, okay, it's a no-brainer. Then you maybe sell Gakpo and you clear up some space on the left and you still go get a right winger. But Liverpool right now are playing with one centre-back and the other centre-back on one leg. So, they've got issues. McAllister's going to come back. He was a shadow of himself last year. They need some help in central midfield. Potentially need a right back because really we haven't got a right back. Frimpong's obviously going to play.
And Joe
there,
Gomez is now
else.
going to miss the start of the season.
Yeah, that's Joe Gomez. God bless him. You know, could have been a world-class defender, but obviously injuries have stopped that. So Liverpool have got a lot of holes to fill. So, and you got to start a right wing to fill Mo Salah's, departure. So it does concern me that we're gone down this rabbit hole where we might end up paying, I don't know, like the Weirds money, you overpay, and then does the player adapt to the Premier League, and is it another bad signing? And it's frustrating for me.
It's Hawksbee and Jacobs here on talkSPORT, and you may have saw yesterday a post, if you're on social media, from Charlie Austin, a former Southampton QPR frontman, saying that he was sad not to have landed a coaching role at the QPR academy. I think he took the post down. He took a bit of heat from some people saying, why have you put that up? He took to the For the Record podcast today to discuss not getting that job. This is what he had to say.
Listen, I love doing the podcast. I love doing TV. I love doing the radio. Like, I really, really enjoy that. But also, I wouldn't mind dipping my hand in at the coaching if the opportunity come along, right? But not every time it does. So, opportunity come at QPR. I applied for it, applied for the job, and didn't get it. No problem. But my tweet was about letting people know that I'm not just interested in doing the media stuff. If there is stuff to be done on the grass, and I would like to do it. And then people have just gone on with it. Like, people saying, "Oh, job for the boys." No, listen, I didn't. do anything. There was no agenda to it. And if you think I've got an agenda towards my football club, then you clearly don't know me. You clearly don't know what the football club means to me and my wife and me and my family. And if that is your thoughts, then me and you are clearly not on the same wavelengths. And I've got to be honest with you, I think that's about all I need to say on it, Pete, if I'm honest. Because anyone that thinks that I had an agenda behind my tweet, then like I say, me and you ain't on the same page.
Well, a big QPR fan and former player and academy coach reached out a little bit earlier on, said he would love to have seen Charlie get a role at the club. Of course. And that is, of course, very much a QPR cult hero. He of the blue and white hair. It is Mark Bircham. Hello, Birch.
Afternoon, chaps. How are we?
Yeah, good, thank you. You felt that you would like to have seen Charlie go in there and work with the kids at the club.
Yeah, on both my hats on. One as a QPR fan, Charlie, one of the greatest forwards of his generation at QPR. It'd be great to see him back in the club, because what we do lack really is the connection of old players that come back to the club to coach. I know Andy's there. I don't really enjoy Chelsea, but one thing they do really do well in the academy is get their old players back in and coaching. And I would have loved to have seen that. And on the other hand, to see for a player with Charlie's ability, he's got his badges, for a player like Charlie to have that insight with the youngsters at the football club, that's something badges can't give you. And even if there's so many jobs that are in the academy nowadays, to not get Charlie in one of them, that QPR have every right not to take him. They have their own, I think it's called methodology and philosophy now. But I can't see how Charlie Austin wouldn't make the young players at QPR better.
There is a lot of insecurity often around old players and players that are well regarded at a club, and maybe amongst some coaches and the structures there that, they get a bit busy, they worry about their own positions. That does happen quite a lot in football, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think people have spoken out about it between the non-football people and the football people, but it's very hard. When you're in the academy, I know me and Steve Gallen run the QPR Academy, and we tried to get old players back in, but we teamed them up with youth coaches. So you got the best of both. So they was paired. We had Richard Langley, Kevin Gallen, Matty Rose, old players come in, and the lift it gives the younger players. With being an ex-player, you've got the players' respect straight away to lose. As a non-player, you've got to earn the young lads' respect. So, look, for me, it's very hard. One, because you're not getting the best of the coaches in the academy, because they're either coming into you at a younger age, they've got no outgoings, so they can do it for the smaller wages. So when an old pro comes back, wants to put the time and effort in, and will take it at them low wages, you should really bite their hands off.
Bert should ask you, are you in the garden, or is that a backdrop?
No, that's the garden.
Right.
I live in America, but I've asked the gardener to go for scorched earth look, Serengeti.
Wow.
And he's pulled it off. He's pulled it off perfectly.
It looks like you get a football pitch in that, Butch. It's enormous.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I'm going to turf it, I think. I'm going to go to 1986 on me turf, Terry Venables. That'd be the one.
This is the thing. Everybody loves a player who played for their club that is also a huge fan. It's just massively in your family. I know you and your brother and your extended family are all massive QPR fans. How are you feeling about a QPR fan at the moment going into the new season? How optimistic are you?
Same as I've been for the last 25 years, I think. Just look, there's not great optimism, but if we can just improve year on year, that's what we're going for now. So look, I think we'll be 14th, 15th.
Wow.
Maybe 13th this year, and look, we'll take that. There's worse positions to face. I think it's another rebuilding year, but look, we support QPR because it's QPR, not like where we're going to finish and what to win. Not like Andy. If Andy don't win a cup or league, that's it. He wants it completely changed.
Have a go at Andy, Dad.
I've got to have a little dig at it.
Oh dear me. You're going to come in and see us soon, aren't you? I think you're doing some interesting stuff post-football. You've not gone down, although you were coaching, you were working with Ollie at the club as well, weren't you? You've gone down a different route.
Yeah, my last job in football, I think it was like 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, was technical director at Como. Loved it. But since then, just gone into the business world. So chairman of a NASDAQ company over in America, really enjoying it.
Wow.
Great.
Yes, I wasn't. I always kind of saw you coaching for. I mean, have you kept an eye on Como? I mean, it's a beautiful
That's a
spot.
good story, isn't it?
Beautiful spot to work, and they have gone on, haven't they, from strength to strength?
Done brilliant, and always knew Seth would be great as a manager. A great guy, great coach, but again, with the experience he's got, he was only going to go one way, and that was into management and do well. So yeah, Como's doing brilliant, and Champions League. So it'd be great this year to see how they do.
Fantastic. We'll catch up with you soon, Birch. I'm sure Charlie will be pleased with the support, and QPR have a good season. Andy doesn't, obviously. He wants you to go down.
No,
It's mental how social media blows up. I think he just put on there that he went for the job, he didn't get it, and then people are having a go at him. It's
Everybody's
unbelievable.
got an opinion. I mean, Charlie Hull, the golfer, was on this morning on breakfast.
Yeah.
She was talking about, she did a practical joke on her caddy.
I saw that.
They liked it. He liked it. She liked it. They found it all very close. Everybody was fine about it, except social media, who took her to task.
So what you're saying, Andy, this might be a practical joke on Charlie. They're going to come round and ring him up in a couple of days and give it coming. You're under 16 assistant.
Yeah, maybe they will.
I love it.
I'd love to see your face, Andy, if I gave you $100,000 scratch card, then told you afterwards it was a winder.
I'll be delighted.
Because you would have gone scorched earth on everybody here, wouldn't you? Got your $100,000.
No, not for $100,000. I'm only scorched earth for $1 million.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Oh, he only does $1 million.
Yeah.
$100,000's nothing to him.
Cheers, Birch. Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys.
There we are. This Mark Bircham, the former QPR midfielder and coach, on that Charlie Austin story that seemed to get a bit of a head of steam up. Now the wait is nearly over, Andy.
Oh, yes.
Live football is back on talkSPORT from Friday the 7th of August. Going to bring you the first domestic cup commentary of the season. Borough versus Wrexham in the Carabao Cup. And then 7 live EFL Championship matches across the opening weekend, including Burnley versus West Ham. We'll also take you to Cardiff for Arsenal v Manchester City in the Community Shield. Then it's the return of the Premier League with exclusive national radio coverage. The first 2 games of the new season, starting with Arsenal Cov before Hull host Manchester United. So the 2027 football season coming to you from Friday the 7th of August on talkSPORT. Very much looking forward to the start of the season. Our next guests, they are the new management duo of Lincoln City, back in the Championship after 65 years, Chris Cohen and Tom Shaw. The Cowleys did a fine job there. It has worked at Lincoln, and we'll have a chat with Chris and Tom in a few moments' time. We're here with our good friends at Tool Station. First stop for everything for the job from 7 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Start strong, start it right. First stop, Tool Station.
My issue is, and you say he's in a minority of 1 at the moment, I'm not sure he is because, we haven't seen the African Federation, for example, come out against him as yet. And you know what? I've got this feeling he won't be forced to resign because he's shown his vanity. He's shown this astonishing lack of self-awareness. It's absolutely beyond belief that I think he will be so difficult to prize out of his position. David Bernstein's going to be on later on, and he will tell us how difficult it was to get rid of Sepp Blatter. And I think we're in a similar situation.
A good point. Yeah, look, I totally understand that. But I know that he lost a couple of seniors, people in senior positions. I think over the last few days at FIFA, people have resigned. And I just always feel when that sort of stuff starts happening, when others that a few weeks ago were reasonably close to him, all of a sudden have now just gone in the middle of the night in a puff of smoke, they're out the door, and I'm sure others would be tempted to follow. I just feel that I don't think it's going to happen quickly, Jeff. Whatever's going to happen, I'm sure it's going to be pretty protracted and drag out over the months ahead. But I do think eventually this will end with someone stepping forward, a credible contender that they feel could take FIFA forward in a different direction. And I'm pretty sure eventually something will happen and he'll probably stand down.
Today I said to them, you can make history because you could be the first team promoted in 25-26 in league football, so let's go and make history.
They have Reading 1, Lincoln 2. That will be promotion to the Championship. They were on the break and they slammed the ball into the back of the net and run as one, as a whole team.
Fantastic, over the moon, delighted. I've been going for 51 years. I started in 75 with my father, and I've been an ardent fan since, and so's my son now.
Yeah, it was one of the great stories at the close of the EFL season, the return to Lincoln after 65 years. I heard the familiar refrain as a Spurs
Yes, people get
Lincoln away, ole, ole. Even the Lincoln fans are looking forward to coming to our place. Thankfully, that didn't transpire, but they've got some fantastic visits through the Championship, of course. And managerial duos are quite a rare beast. Very few times you can think it has worked. It certainly worked with the Cowleys at Lincoln City, which is probably why they have decided to go down the same route again and promoted from within after Mike Scubala, you heard in that piece there, went to Bristol City. Chris Cohen and Tom Shaw are the joint head coaches, and they join us now. Hi, guys.
How you doing? Hi, Paul. Andy.
So, Chris, maybe we'll start with you. How did this all come about? I saw Jez George, the sporting director, saying that you've been very much instrumental in the success and getting the team promoted. Was it offered? Did you interview for the job? How did it work?
Yeah, when obviously winning the league and doing it in the style that we did, there's always going to be an attraction to the people involved in the club, players and staff. And Michael decided, obviously, it was his time to go and join Bristol City, and then we just had a really open and honest conversation with Jez and Liam about what it might look like. We feel really lucky that first time both of us going to be managers, we get to do it in the Championship, and really important that both of us felt really fortunate to be doing it together and have someone stood alongside us when we're in the fire come next week.
Tom, do you have clear lines over who's going to do what, or is it more flexible than that?
We're just trying to be as good a duo as you two. That's
thanks.
I hope you're going to be better than that.
You got to be better. We'll go down if that's the case.
Yeah, we've got areas that we specialise in. Michael Scubala gave us loads of autonomy to go and deliver a big chunk of the football programme. So we've got parts of the pitch that we'll give a lot of focus to and bring that together towards the back end of the week as the game's approaching. But we've got a really healthy, respectful way of working. We don't agree on everything. We'll check and challenge each other's work with the greater good being developing players, developing the team and trying to win as many games as possible.
And I take it you're both gaffer, Chris, are you, to the players?
We stayed as Chris and Tom. Yeah, they weren't sure. That was probably the most amusing moment, was them coming in with no idea what to call us. But we've stayed as Chris and Tom for now.
That's interesting, isn't it? I don't know. You've both been players. Do you like that bit of distance, or do you think? I mean, obviously that's the way you've. But often we hear, "Just call me gaffer," is when players take that step up from a coaching role and the players know them.
Yeah, but we'd both be turning around every time they said it, didn't we? So it's really easy to just carry on saying exactly what they said before.
So picking the team, is that a debate, or how do you go about that?
We've had a process last year that we go through before every game, and we're always looking for holes in the opposition. Those holes will be a little bit harder to find this year, the level we're going into, but that starts our process right at the top of the pitch on what sort of profile we need. We've got different blend in our departments, definitely in our forward line, and then from that point, as I said, we'll disagree on a few bits, we'll debate some bits. We've got other talented staff in the building that will have an input. But I can't remember us really disagreeing on the final 11 at any point in our journey of the last couple of years. We know what we want it to look like every week. The challenge is definitely going to be greater that we're going into, but we will get there in the process of the week building them to each game.
How's pre-season gone so far, Chris?
Yeah, it's been good. It's like any pre-season, and you can't judge it. I've had great results in pre-season as a player, and then not had the greatest of seasons, and had the other way around as well. So yeah, the nice thing is that there's about 16 players here that we trust implicitly, 17 players that we trust implicitly who played the big chunk of last season, that we're just so excited to watch them play in the Championship. And then, we need to bring in a few more faces, like every manager up and down the country is saying, and we'll do that over the next 10 days or so. But as I said, the bulk of the players that played last year are still here, which gets us incredibly excited to see them challenged at a level alongside ourselves.
And there's a lot of expectation on you, Tom, isn't there? Because we heard the Lincoln fan there who phoned into talkSPORT, so excited to be back in the Championship. And it's not like you're taking over a club that sort of solid 10th in the league or whatever. The expectations there to go in there and consolidate and do a good job and stay as a Championship club.
There's an obvious remit when a club like Lincoln City enters the Championship after promotion. There's an obvious remit that we've all got to try and achieve, and it's going to be very difficult. But we won't be putting any ceiling on this group of players. We were down the pecking order in spends in League One and end up getting 103 points. So we will have a process every week. We'll go into every game trying to win wherever we are in the country, but we'll be putting no lid and no ceiling on this group. They're super ambitious, they're respectful, and we are of the quality of opposition, the quality of coach we're going up against this year. But we'll be trying to win every week and take this club as far as we possibly can.
What about loans from Premier League clubs? Are you looking at that? Because they've all got big squads and they need some of them got young players who really want to play and need to play.
Yeah, some good players out there if you can pick them up, I would think, Chris.
Yeah, most definitely. The thing is, we've taken a loan. They have to be special because obviously you're making another club's player better and increasing their value. So we'd rather do it for players that are obviously ours. Is the first remit. But I have no doubt that by the end of the window we'll have taken a couple of elite Premier League loans. The club's been historically very, very good at doing that, and it's something that we'll definitely end up doing before the end of the window.
You probably can't tell us, Tom, but I've heard a few links to our young Irish attacker Mason Melia at Spurs as a possible loan. Could that happen?
We've got loads of players on the list, and the World Cup has obviously slowed the loan market down a little bit because some of the young players are on their travels around the world on the pre-season tours. But we're looking for a certain set of attributes in each position, and this club's famous for having character and personality in its players. So we're looking for that as well. We want lads that will do the hard yards before all the pretty stuff, and that will be just a bonus. But that type of player is definitely one that we'll be looking to bring in.
And be honest, Chris, were you a bit sad that you didn't get Tottenham away, ole?
Yeah, it would have been the best one. But West Ham was my childhood team and the team that I was lucky enough to start my career at. So going back to West Ham, although I wish I hadn't been in these circumstances, will also be a nice moment. But there's some monster games when you look at the league, the level, the type of player, the type of manager that we're going to be coming up against every week. It's going to be an incredibly exciting journey. But same as last year, we go everywhere trying to formulate a game plan that helps us win. And it'll be, again, we can't wait to see the Lincoln fans away at West Ham, away at Wolves, away at places like this. It's going to be a roller coaster, but we're incredibly excited for it.
Yeah, very excited.
So, Tom, it's Derby in the Carabao, then it's Borough, isn't it? The first league game you've got.
Yeah, two pretty tough games to start it all off, but we were delighted when the cup draw came through. We wanted to have a proper feel of the Championship away from home. So we get an amazing marker on Saturday against a very, very good club with a manager who's brought some success to Derby. They just missed out last year. So we're pleased that we're going into a really hard game to kick it all off. And then Middlesbrough away is about as hard as it gets for our first league game. So got two big challenges around the corner, but the lads have put the hard yards in. We've got plenty of momentum from last year's experiences, and we're super excited.
And you'll be pleased, Chris, finally to emulate the Cowleys, won't you? To Danny and Nicky to get another promotion, big deep cup run. That would be very nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah. If we can have the same success at this level that Danny and Nicky had in League Two, that would be, or in the Conference of League Two, that would be pretty incredible. But like Tom said, go and try and win every game in the way that we win games, the way that we won games last year. See where it gets us.
Excellent. All the best, guys. Have a good season.
Have a great
Thanks
season.
very much.
Yeah, thanks very much. Cheers.
Take care. There's Chris Cohen and Tom Shaw, the head coaches of Lincoln City, back in the Championship. So still to come this afternoon, we're going to find out more about the man that could challenge Gianni Infantino. We spoke to Laura McAllister earlier on, the vice president of UEFA, and she said they would certainly look to back a kind of unifying candidate for head of FIFA, and he seems to fit the bill. We'll tell you why, find out more about him, and also find out why he has his own day in Canadian football. Plus, a little bit of news from the world of women's football today. Manchester United, a big story that's been breaking. Some Newcastle chat for you and lots more besides. That's all to come in the final hour.
Let's bring in Terry Gibson, Spanish football expert. Terry, always good to speak to you. Lots of news stories over in Spain at the moment. Let's start with that Marcus Rashford farewell post to Barcelona. Looks like his hopes of return to the Camp Nou are now very much over.
Yes, it does, and I think it was a blow to him when Anthony Gordon. It must have been kind of awkward when the England team met up for the World Cup when Anthony Gordon had already completed his move to Barcelona. Marcus Rashford's future was hanging in the air. And then they signed Karim Adeyemi. So it's it's not going to happen now for Marcus Rashford. I have to be honest, I'm really surprised. I thought it was a good value in terms of the transfer fee, and I thought his form last season was as good as you would expect. And he couldn't have done any more. He scored some important goals. He actually effectively got the goal that won them the league title. He was popular with his teammates and popular with the fans. So I'm surprised. Even when Anthony Gordon signed, I still thought there was a possibility that Rashford would still go, but the signing of Adeyemi has put a stop to that.
Is it just wages? Because obviously Anthony Gordon would command a much lower weekly salary than Rashford.
But he was £80 million. Rashford was 26. Yeah. So 26 million, slightly difference in their ages as well. People are forgetting they've got Rafinha that plays there as well. So the problem positions that everyone thought they had, and they still have, are centre forward, Lewandowski leaving the club, and they should have bought a better centre back than what they currently have.
Some of the big transfer stories are there a little bit later on in the show, but Max Scott is here with the sports headlines.
Talk Sport.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Good afternoon. The Vice President of UEFA has exclusively told talkSPORT there must be a candidate to stand against Gianni Infantino, someone who can unite football.
I think this is a crisis of leadership, not of one individual, and we need to be part of the debate now about how we create a better culture around the governance of football and make it more in tune with what the fans want, particularly, but also what the clubs and players want too.
Laura McAllister says she hopes other nations will follow UEFA's lead by withdrawing their support for Infantino. The FA will write to FIFA to do so, following on from the Welsh FA's withdrawal of support. Former chair of the FA, David Bernstein, reckons we need a new approach to FIFA leadership.
I believe that FIFA needs an independent chair, someone probably who understands football but is from outside football, not another of these sort of presidents of associations and so on, because you're in danger, I think, of carrying on the problem from Blatter to Infantino to another of the same sort.
Meanwhile, we're told Infantino has been calling other football federations for public support as pressure grows on him to resign. He's also set to hold meetings with senior members of the Trump administration to seek support to continue his role. Elsewhere, we understand Newcastle have rejected an opening bid from Arsenal for their captain Bruno Guimaraes. The clubs are now in direct talks over a deal for the midfielder who's got 2 years left on his contract at St James's Park. You can get all the latest on the website at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
Reform's military operation to stop migrant boats in the Channel would be legal, says Nigel Farage. And journalist and broadcaster Rob Liddell has died after a short illness. Amelia's got more at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. This summer, treat yourself to Bridgestone Turanza all-season 6 tyres with a 25,000 mileage guarantee. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Largely dry in the south today with sunny spells and feeling very hot. Cloudier further north and west with outbreaks of rain at times, particularly across Scotland.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Betfair. Everyone's got an opinion. Back yours at Betfair. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Yes, time now to get all the latest odds with James Mackey from our friends and new official betting partner, Betfair. Good afternoon, James.
How are we? You okay?
Yeah, we're not so bad. We're not so bad. So we were talking to Mickey Gray early on about how much you should read into pre-season. I wonder if did the odds changed? Did they sort of yo-yo a little bit based on pre-season results, or are people smarter than that? I don't know.
It's a tough one, really, Paul, because some fans are fickle, some fans aren't. Some take it with a pinch of salt, some don't. And I guess it's really watching the game and seeing how some of these young players play, how the players are actually under what we've got 13 new managers now, haven't we, in the Premier League? So how are these players taken to the different structures that these managers want to get? When you look through some of the markets at the moment, just because as we've come out the World Cup, it's a different season. There's not been too much fluctuation as of yet, but as we get close to the season, we do start to see punters like to back their anti-post bets throughout the season. They're the top goal scorers, as you will. So, yeah, it's an interesting time now.
It's interesting because though you can't read too much into it, things like Liverpool conceded 2 goals from set plays, and you heard Szoboszlai talking after the game saying, we have to cure this. If we don't, we're going to have the same
We're going to have to time
as we
out.
had before. So there are certain indicators that could give punters clues.
But I take it their title odds have not drifted off the back of that defeat to Leeds, have they?
Yeah, not at this moment in time, no. And the reason I wanted to discuss Liverpool today, I'm a big Liverpool fan, even though I haven't got the Scouse accent. I'm a big Liverpool fan. But you're absolutely right there, Andy, what you say, that seeing us concede 2 goals from set pieces when all we did last season was look shaky at set pieces, and that's happening under a new administration, I think something to be wary about. Currently, Liverpool are 11-2 third favourites to win the Premier League this season. Arsenal, the 6-4 favourites to go on and retain the league, with Man City under Maresca now 11-4 on the Betfair Sportsbook. I guess the question to ask you two is, do you think Liverpool are serious title contenders this season?
Well, I think
I don't, but there you go. I don't, because I think it's asking a lot of Iraola. He's got to get his feet under the table. He's got to get the team playing.
I can see you having a good second half of the season. He showed at Bournemouth. It took him a while to get his ideas, because when he did, they were great. But I mean, initially he had a pretty tough start, didn't he?
Also, trying to judge anything without the transfer window being closed again is difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows who Liverpool are going to bring in? You know.
No, I'm with you. Because I think it's very difficult, like I said, with all these different teams that probably like the Chelseas, like the Spurs, who hasn't had the best few seasons, but they have spent, obviously, in the transfer window. Liverpool haven't as of yet, really, to the extent the other teams have. Just looking through the markets just on Liverpool, and obviously we're discussing them off the back of conceding 4 goals in the second half to Leeds, who Leeds are actually 11-2 to be relegated this season. I don't think that'll happen personally. No. But Liverpool are 2-1 to finish in the top 2 this season. 2-5 to finish in the top 4, 1-4 to finish in the top 5, and 1-7 to finish in the top 6. So they are odds on for most to get European football next season. Obviously sneaking into 5th this time around. So it's an interesting one. Third favourites at 2-1 to finish in the top 2, and Arsenal and City are favourites to do that.
We're going to have a chat with Stuart Weir, a first weekend of the SPL. There's still a game to go. Celtic Dundee. This evening. So, I mean, you're going to be paying out on Celtic if they win tonight after Rangers drew on Friday?
Well, that's it, isn't it, at the moment? Because obviously Celtic kick off their campaign tonight at Celtic Park, and they saw their rivals Rangers and Hearts drop points on the opening opening fixtures weekend. So they couldn't really want a better start going into Monday night. If you look at the odds for tonight, Celtic are the 2-13 favourites to win this evening. Dundee as big as 14-1 outsiders, and the draw as big as 7-1. And what I thought was interesting, just having a look through Celtic really, was Camilo Duran for Celtic has been the main man for them in pre-season. 3 goals and 1 assist in his last 3 games. He's 8-11 to score any time and 100-30 to get 2 or more in the game this evening. But if you look through what they've done in pre-season, it's probably not the start you want going into the season. I think they haven't won any of their 4 pre-season games. They drew to AC Milan, Middlesbrough and Shelbourne, with losing to Sporting Lisbon. But like I said, they're 2-13 favourites tonight. They're 8-13 though to retain the league again this season. I think what it'll be their 57th Scottish League title to go on and win this season. Rangers 13-8 second favourite, with Hearts now out to 12-1 after losing to Aberdeen in that last gasp penalty. So 8-13 on gents to win the league and 2-13 to win the game tonight, Celtic.
Nice one. Thank you, James. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Paul.
James Mackey there from Betfair. For all the latest offers, go to betfair.com, 18+, begambleaware.org.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Betfair. Everyone's got an opinion. Back yours at Betfair. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Well, it'd been a few weeks since the World Cup, and I was missing football, so I tuned into quite a decent chunk of Dundee United versus Rangers.
Yeah, for goodness sake.
Yeah, it was quite entertaining stuff, actually.
Right.
But is it done? If the Celtic win tonight, is it done? Of course, we jest, of course, or do we? Stuart Weir joins us now. Good afternoon, Stuart.
Good afternoon, guys. I'm just laughing at James there, walking into the studio with his wheelbarrow full of cash, ready to throw it to the 4 winds.
So, yeah, it wasn't the start Derek McInnes would have wanted, was it really? I mean, what did you make of the performance?
I thought Dundee United played pretty well. I thought it was a decent game. But bigger and better teams, Rangers sides, have lost. In the opening game of the season, it was a bad start. But then again, I think actually, if you looked at it, I think Rangers, we knew where the failings would be. There's a lot of new players in the squad, and there's also guys playing currently who, you know, that if Rangers could get their hands on someone better, they'd be on the bench rather than starting the game. I thought Rangers were a bit unbalanced. They're playing guys out of position to make up the numbers, and that never helps. So all in all, I think Derek McInnes will dust himself down, take the point that he got, and move on from that.
Aberdeen, that was a dramatic win, wasn't it? Against Hearts. I saw the highlights of that.
Yeah, my dog barked for me to let her out. I let her out and come back, and then going from Aberdeen losing by a goal to Hearts to suddenly being 2-1 up. That's how quick it was. I mean, the equaliser came, I think, 88 plus minutes, and then they had the drama of the penalty. And, you know, I think a lot of the Hearts fans are already saying, woe is me. It just doesn't look the same as it did last season. And ultimately, I have to say that Hearts just didn't look as if they were defending the same way as they did under Derek McInnes. You know, it's time for change there as well, and they will take a bit of time to bed in. But the way they lost that game is going to hurt for a couple of days.
What about St Johnstone 4, Kilmarnock 3? I saw the highlights on Sky this morning. That looked a bit of a cracking game as well.
Yeah, defence is on top. I'm going to put my CV in as a defensive coordinator to both McDermott Park and Rugby Park. I think I might have a chance there. Listen, you want entertaining football early on in the season, but I don't think you want it quite like that, where you might have won the game or lost the game, but you really must be scratching your head, thinking to yourself, do we need to score that many goals every game just to get a result?
Anybody surprise you, good or bad, this weekend? I mean, we can't read too much into the first game, but anything you picked up, Stuart?
No, I thought Hibs struggled. I thought Motherwell basically changed manager during the summer and picked up where they left off last season, which is always something that you have to look at and think to yourself, you know, it might have been the players on the pitch rather than just the manager who was doing the job. So I think Motherwell fans will be rejuvenated by that. St Mirren had a 2-0 victory over Falkirk, but I think all eyes tonight will be in Celtic Park, the champions kick-off against Dundee, and much will depend on that result. You know, if Celtic get a performance and a result, well, it might be people looking to tie the ribbons onto the trophy already, but I think it's still a bit premature for that. On a global basis, I have to say, however, I'm more interested in Gianni Infantino trying to hire a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier just to stay in power. I think that could be the real story this week.
Bit more pressure on talkSPORT's very own Martin O'Neill, you think? And there he starts from scratch. It was slightly different, wasn't it? He was like, Red Adair, but he's starting from scratch. He's the man again. So what do you think?
That's another one for the kids.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, he's a clever guy. He's an intelligent guy. He always brings his A game to the party. And I think last season, the fact that Celtic ran out winners under pressure from Rangers and especially Hearts tells you everything you need to know about how he relishes the challenge. And I don't see it being any different this time. Like a couple of months ago, it was like, see out the season and then you can move on, Martin, until Martin actually said, no, I'm actually quite enjoying this caper. It's better than the pension plan that actually put in place, so I might just hang around. And again, if he does anything at all this season, it'll be quite remarkable.
And a tough draw, haven't they? Of all the teams they could have got in the Champions League playoff round, they've got LASK, who are the Austrian champions, and from what I understand, that was probably the toughest draw they could have got.
It was one where you basically go through the list, as you always do when European draws are on, and say who would we like to avoid, and that was probably the team that was top of the list. Listen, Celtic, there's still a month of the transfer window to go. They'll strengthen it for the domestic campaign, and ultimately they'll see themselves qualifying for the Champions League again. Certainly, they might need it financially, but the fact is that it's a time of the season where they're still finding their feet, and these games come thick and fast, very important games, and they'll be looking to get a performance or a couple of results in.
Thank you very much, Stuart. We'll catch up with you soon.
Speak soon, guys.
All the best, Stuart. We're there rounding up events in the SPL.
Those European games always come very early for the Scottish teams.
That's right. If they can come through this, though, it would be big, but a tough old draw they've picked up there. A little bit of breaking news, transfer-wise. We understand here at talkSPORT that Trevor Chalobah is going to be joining Como from Chelsea. It's been mooted, but it looks like it's going to be...
Yeah, it's been going
36 million. Yeah, including add-ons. I mean, Chelsea have spent a lot of money, but they've turned over a lot of players, haven't they? In the summer?
They've still got 14 players they need to get out now. 13.
36 million euros. I do apologise.
So they, he isn't the worst centre half to be leaving. There are.
Yeah, he's going to. Thaddeus Shields off. They're going to see a few off, aren't they?
Zazi did well for West Ham, so you'd imagine he'd have some suitors.
Yeah.
Sarr they brought in from Strasbourg far too early, played terribly against PSG, and they never saw him again.
Right.
So I don't know, he'll go out.
So there'll be a few more coming. Are you pleased with?
They're quite good.
Very
good.
We spoke to him on the show last year, and he was really good value.
No, he played well. I liked him in the World Cup.
Yeah. Excellent. So there we are, Trevor Chalobah off. What a lovely place to live, as Bert was confirming a little bit earlier on. So, we spoke to Laura McAllister, UEFA Vice President, earlier on, who said she would certainly support an alternative candidate, Gianni Infantino, if one would run. And the name that keeps coming up is Victor Montagliani, who is a Canadian businessman, a big cheese in the world of Canadian soccer, to the point that he even has his football day in British Columbia named after him. We'll find out a little bit more about him, whether it's possible that he could be that sort of stalking horse candidate. We'll talk about women's football in the next half hour, and we'll talk Newcastle as well, plus all the latest transfer stories of the day. That's all to come before we hand over to Adi Oladipo and Gabby Agbonlahor with Drive. We're here with Tool Station. First stop, Tool Station.
It's an amazing story, actually. It's almost a forgotten man. This is about Mykhailo Mudryk, who has been allowed to come back to football immediately for Chelsea. So, You'll remember that this is a man who had a 4-year ban handed down to him for breaching anti-doping rules. He's not played since November 2024 after what was described as an adverse finding of meldonium, which is a banned substance in his system. He appealed against that sentence to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who have today said that because he accepted breaking anti-doping rules, they have agreed that the time served already is enough of a punishment. So Mykhailo Mudryk is available to play for Chelsea with immediate effect.
Can he even still play football? Is he good enough? He's not played football for 3 years.
Nearly 2 years. Well, Chelsea have released quite a long statement today, obviously welcoming the decision. They've talked about what a difficult period of time it has been for Mykhailo Mudryk. And I think this is the important paragraph here in the statement. We welcome the acknowledgement that advances in the applicable scientific reporting standards for more reliable testing mean that had Misha's sample been analysed under today's technical requirements, it would not have been reported as a positive test and no anti-doping rule violation would have resulted. That is an important part of the context surrounding the agreed resolution and allows everyone involved to move forward.
Hawksbee Jacobs here on talkSPORT now. Is there anybody brave enough to break cover and take Gianni Infantino on? And could they win? They'd need to be a kind of unity candidate, someone who bring all the different confederations together, be palatable for a lot of pretty disparate nations, really. So it's not an easy job. But the name that keeps coming up is the head of CONCACAF, the Canadian Victor Montagliani. He has his own day in British Columbia, in Vancouver, for the work he did in that part of the world in football. Let's find out more about him. Canadian sports journalist Matthew Shinetti joins us. Hi, Matthew.
Hey, gentlemen, how are we?
We're good. Matthew, he seems to be the kind of only name in town at the moment. It's not like this long list of candidates. And as we said, there's quite a lot of criteria you need to fulfill if you're going to unify world football. And he seems to be the name that keeps coming up.
Well, if you look at, I covered the Canadian men's national team during the World Cup And, I'm based in Toronto. Toronto had never had a major international event of that size. Obviously, Vancouver had the 2010 Olympics, but the guy who spearheaded bringing as a co-host nation of the 2026 World Cup, the guy who spearheaded that from the very beginning when he was the president of Canada Soccer from 2012 to 2017, I believe, was Victor Montagliani. The guy who was involved in bringing the Women's World Cup to Canada in 2015 was Victor Montagliani. The guy who was, really at the ground level of bringing a professional soccer league to Canada, which is obviously one of the things that you need to have a Men's World Cup, was Victor Montagliani. So he never wants for confidence. Victor does. I mean, I spoke to him. I was at not MetLife Stadium, but New Jersey Stadium for the World Cup final, and he and I spoke about the whole journey and all the process to get to that point and all the success and the goodwill that he had actually gained in bringing the Men's World Cup to Canada. Yeah, I could see him given all of the levers he had to pull, that he would want to potentially look at making a run at this, given obviously everything that's happened over the last 10 days with Gianni Infantino.
I'm sorry. I was going to ask what his relationship is like with Infantino. I mean,
they've been quite close, hadn't they, at one point?
Well, he was on the dais with him, wasn't he, when they awarded Spain the World Cup trophy, and obviously as FIFA vice president, you're going to be in the same room as the men. But the one thing I will say about Victor is this: he is someone who is incredibly ambitious. He has always been incredibly ambitious, and has always felt, as himself a Canadian from East Vancouver, that Canada has an important role to play, given how diverse our nation is and how many different stakeholders there are in our country in soccer. So yeah, absolutely. In a room with Gianni Infantino, who himself likes to consider himself an operator, now to a fault. But absolutely, I mean, Victor has always felt himself very much operating on the same level as Gianni Infantino. And, through this whole process of, as I've already said, through this whole process of getting Canada to be a co-host nation, he has never lacked for wanting to reach. His reach has never, outstripped his grasp. And I am not surprised when I saw the reports coming out that he was being considered a candidate, because this is a man who believes that he absolutely can have a major influence on football.
I mean, it sounds like you feel like he'd be a good choice. You feel like he'd have the good of the game in question. He's not a career football administrator. He made his money in insurance, and his involvement is football essentially for the love of the game, isn't it?
What we need is a custodian rather than somebody who wants to change the game.
Yeah, that's right. Someone who realises all the good things about it and just maintain them.
I mean, I go back to soccer in this country. I've covered soccer in this country in a lot of different ways over the last 2 decades. And it is not easy to be an administrator in Canadian soccer. There are a lot of hurdles that you have to overcome. And the one guy who has consistently overcome those hurdles in a country as large as ours has been Victor Montagliani. And, certainly, you can discuss Jesse Marsh and the Canadian team, what they've done since Montagliani has moved on. But since he's moved on from being the president of Canada Soccer, he's become so influential in CONCACAF. Certainly, there have been a lot of ambitious cup competitions and other things that he's done in the CONCACAF region. But he is a man who will always, when he's certainly in front of media members like ourselves, will tell you that being a custodian of the game, to use the great expression you guys just used, is really important to him. But being the president of CONCACAF and being the FIFA president is very different. Even from being the FIFA vice president to being the president of FIFA is very different. But again, I go back to this point. He is incredibly ambitious, and he is someone who will always point to the work he's done in Canadian soccer and trying to get all these different stakeholders to the table and getting a Men's World Cup to Canada, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. I'm not surprised that he would look at that and say, this for me, even though, it is a significant step up, and the scrutiny and the expectation and being a custodian of the game is so important when you are the FIFA president. It doesn't surprise me that Montagliani thinks he'd be the right man for the job.
In some ways, it feels like a good time to go in with everything that's gone on. Though you could have said that about Infantino after Blatter and everything that went on around that. But if someone, as you said, if someone goes in as a kind of safe pair of hands and just like someone will just calm down and take a step back from this, and not the kind of toad-in we've seen around the Trump administration from Infantino and other things, and the price gouging and the hydration breaks. I don't think it would take a lot to get football fans on side for someone who came in and just settled the whole thing down and reminded everybody of what FIFA should be and not what it is now.
No, he could point to everything that just happened in Vancouver. I mean, I was there for 12 days while Canada played their final 2 group stage games. The city was alight. The streets were full of people. And obviously he knows that city very, very well. And being able to get all 3 levels of government, federal, provincial, municipal, to bring that kind of level of celebration and party really at a grassroots level. He can also point to, and I'm sure you gentlemen saw the images out of Toronto with the Portuguese fans and the Croatian fans. I mean, you know, Canada is a diverse, multicultural country, and he can point to and say, look at the street level view of what happened in my own country. Look at, you know, in contrast with everything that happened in the States, look at in Canada, it was purely about the game. So if you're looking at something to advertise potentially the way you want to approach and the things that matter to you as a FIFA president, he can point to everything that just happened over the last, you know, 2 months in Canada and say, this is what I'm about. And look at the reaction that level of competition brought my own home country, and look at the amount of work we've invested in it. So it's certainly, to your point, it can be an absolute tune change from everything and all the distractions and all the ridiculousness that we've seen coming out of Infantino.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure we'll talk again, Matthew. Thanks very much.
Cheers, boys.
Matthew Shinetti there, Canadian sports journalist, and remember the name, as they say, Victor Montagliani.
Because you know Infantino would love 2038 to be back in America. No.
Yeah, you could just, that's suddenly what we'll be moving to, won't we, really? I don't think it would take a lot to get trust back if you got the right person in there to run it. So, there's been a bit of breaking news from the world of women's football at the top today. We'll touch on that. We'll talk Newcastle, and we'll look at all the big transfer stories of the day. Miles Lewis-Skelly in the news today. We'll find out where he could be heading with Ben Jacobs a little bit later on, but we'll get the news headlines for you next.
Let's take a very quick call on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Oliver is a Liverpool fan. Morning, Oliver.
Morning, how you doing, lad? You all right?
Yeah.
All right, Oliver.
Good, yeah. Would you like to see Trent back?
Good. I'd absolutely love to see Trent back. I think Mo Salah missed him very much last season. Obviously, Salah had a pretty poor season last season, but when he come back with Real Madrid, it was very frosty, and I think the damage is being done, to be honest with you, but I would love to see him back in a Liverpool shirt, yeah.
Look, there's no doubt. Nobody can doubt his quality. On the ball, he's as good as anything, anywhere.
He was winning games from right back. I mean, obviously the Barcelona game in 2019, that cross, and then I think he was very, very important when we won the league with Slot as well. So much quality, from right back.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, brilliant. I think a lot of Liverpool fans would share that view. They'd all love to see Trent back. Oliver, thanks very much indeed.
Maybe Jeff as well. Thanks, Oliver. You wonder, though, whether the player, having not really done it at Real Madrid, would want to sort of maybe at least stick around for another 6 months to see exactly where he figures and where he fares. He'll know pretty soon. As players, you get the vibe whether or not you're on you're part of the in club or whether you're on the outside of it.
Now, big story in the world of women's football today. The top WSL clubs, Manchester United, parted company with their coach, Mark Skinner. A contentious character, I think it's fair to say.
Yes,
we
I'd say
discussed him during our women's football chat with Angelina Kelly, who's popped in to see us. Hi, Angelina.
Hello.
You kept more of an eye on this because Manchester United's your team, of course. Were you surprised by the announcement earlier today?
You know what? I was and I wasn't, because you look at his time with Manchester United, I think that it's safe to say that it has been a little bit turbulent. On one hand, you can argue that he's maybe overachieved at the club. Their investment was nowhere near the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester City, etc. He's got them 4th, 3rd, 5th, 2nd, 4th finishes, won the FA Cup, etc. But then, on the other hand, there have been 3 domestic cup finals that he lost, all against Chelsea, with an aggregate of 6-0. So there were situations like that where people felt maybe he wasn't brave enough, maybe he wasn't getting the best out of the players, etc. But this feels a little bit like the Eddie Howe situation, in that he hasn't really been backed by the owners. The transfer window hasn't been great. And he's probably looking at this season thinking, realistically, what can I do here? So maybe to protect his own reputation, because people have different opinions on him. But speaking to ex-professionals that have worked with him, everyone always speaks very highly of him. Whenever I've spoken to him, he's always been very nice, very polite, etc. And I think he's thought, I'm not going to get anything out of this, to be honest.
So you think he'll resurface in another job pretty soon, do you?
I think potentially he could.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's got a good enough CV, to be completely honest. And I think this all boils down to Manchester United and the way the club as a whole is being run, because sources are claiming that the club feel that big spending isn't sustainable in the women's game. The focus is building a team sustainably. This word keeps coming up, with homegrown players. So
hard to do that when you're looking at the money that sort of London City Lionesses are spending, and other teams are spending, Chelsea, Arsenal.
Exactly. And you look at the budgets for the 2024-25 season, United spent 5.88 million on wages. Arsenal spent 11.3 million, City 14 million. So to keep up with that, it's very difficult. And I do think that this is basically United don't want to invest money. Jim Ratcliffe made it clear a while ago that he didn't see the women's team as a priority financially. And I think that, this is the problem, that they don't want to put the money in. I think that Jim Ratcliffe is probably looking at it thinking, we can just, if United are in the WSL, a name like Manchester United, we can still generate a bit of interest. It'll be hard to get fans, because nowadays a lot of fans tend to gravitate towards players and they want to see success. And just the name Manchester United isn't going to be enough to attract players, to attract fans, to keep this going and to build momentum for Man United women. So it's a shame.
As long as the men's side keeps going well, then and people won't notice it.
Wow. I mean, people who follow the WSL, but it's back in September. I'm sure we'll be chatting before then, but we'll have our regular slot once it gets underway. But Angelina, thank you very much for popping in.
No worries.
Angelina Kelly there with the latest at Manchester United's women. We turn to Newcastle United now, and it's been a tough old summer, I think it's fair to say. But Eisler's coming in. What sort of job is he going to do? What sort of signings will they make? Andy Brassel earlier on thinks they've done some good business. He certainly said nice things about Hornacek, the new keeper. Let's have a chat with Jack Cunningham from Inside the Toon. Hi, Jack.
Good afternoon, lads. How are you doing? You good?
Yeah, we're not too bad. So Andy was quite bullish. I mean, he lives up in Newcastle, so he doesn't want his window smashed in. But he feels. I mean, I know Andy feels differently. And look, it has been a turbulent old summer, but he thinks your business has been good, and he certainly said nice things about your new keeper.
Yeah, the transfer business had to change, to be honest, because we saw last summer just didn't work. So Newcastle have totally changed the way that they are going about it. It seems like we're trying to get young European talents before they maybe make that breakthrough and then become unreachable for us. So it's a risk, of course it is, but I think I like it. Hornacek, look, Nick Pope, unfortunately, it was a very, very sad sort of decline in Nick Pope's game, sort of since December 2023 when he dislocated his shoulder. From that point onwards, he's got significantly worse as the years have gone on. A new goalkeeper was a must. So I'm excited about Hornacek, because I think if you look at Arsenal and David Raya, for example, that's how important a goalkeeper can be. And I think last season, as much as Newcastle were very poor, I think if they had a better goalkeeper than Pope or Ramsdale, I think they would have got a lot more points than they actually ended up achieving. The goalkeepers were both just useless, to be honest.
You've got a lot of money coming in, but if you lose your 3 best players and you're coming off a pretty ordinary season, and you've just lost your manager, it's hard to be optimistic. I can't see where this optimism is coming from.
You're probably going to strap yourself in for a toughish start, you would think. But once he gets his feet under the table, the manager, you'll be hoping that things pick up a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, let's obviously look at the Bruno situation. So I think we all thought Tonali and Golden were going to go. Trippier and Kraft have left as well. So they were all expected departures. It's if Bruno leaves or not, and is the big thing. Now, my view on that's totally changed in a couple of different ways. So initially I was like, no, we've just got to make sure he stays. And that was on the basis that Eddie Howe was staying, because Howe couldn't win without Bruno. Like, the record shows that without Bruno in the side, Howe couldn't win. So I felt like if Eddie was going to stay, he needed it, because otherwise it didn't really bear thinking about if he had stayed and Bruno had left. Instead, we're in a position where it's now a new manager. Jijsler's never ever managed Bruno, and of course Bruno is our captain, he's our best player. But there's no mental block that he's going to have his own tactics, he's going to have his own ideas. He doesn't necessarily need Bruno. And I think if he doesn't want to be here anymore and we can get a good fee for him, then go. It's like we're ripping up and starting again. This squad, I said it all last year, this squad was done. It was done. There's too many players who have been there for too long and their level have steadily declined. But Eddie Howe had a very much of loyalty to them. He wouldn't drop them. He wouldn't replace them. So we end up rejecting bids for Joe Willock in January. Fulham bid 20 million for Joe Willock. We're never getting that again. So this is what we are. I'm excited. I'm excited. Look, I get it. I get why people are worried. But I think from what I've read and understood about Jijsler, the fact that a lot of European football experts are really big on him. I think when you look at what he's done at Salzburg, where he had a young team with Šeško, Openda, Adeyemi, got them the last 16 of the Champions League. Then he goes to Saudi Arabia and he's got egos in the dressing room. Mahrez, Tony, Kessié, and he wins them back-to-back Asian Champions Leagues. I mean, there was a point where he was going to get replaced by Allegri, and the Al Ahly fans came out and protested against it to make sure that he didn't go. He's a very highly rated manager, and I think that it needed something new. It just ran its course, unfortunately, for Howe.
You need to be optimistic this time of the season.
17th.
What else have we... What do you mean 17th?
17th?
No, I think they're really going to struggle. Sorry, but we'll wait and see.
All right, Andy, we'll see. We'll see.
You can come back. I'd say Andy would volunteer to shave his head if he finished 17th, but he kind of has anyway.
Very true.
Thank you, Jack. All the best.
They're always nice to have a good rest of the afternoon,
yeah. Inside the Tombs, Jack Cunningham there. But, you think they're in for a tough old season.
I do, but you look, it's
none
very...
of us know.
None of us know.
They have made some decent...
Let's have a look. Let's let the season get underway and then we'll have a...
That's right. Let's have your knee-jerk reactions once the season gets underway. We'll get the latest on Bruno then. Very shortly. Ben Jacobs joining us. Is here at the ground on the transfer front, and we'll bring you some of the big transfer stories of the day before we hand over to Adi Oladipo and Gabby Agbonlahor, who bring you Drive from 4 o'clock. We're here with Tool Station. Only got time for one stop. First stop, Tool Station.
Noticed that on social media, Curtis Jones liked the posts where Inter Milan announced Stones as a player.
He's acting like a spoiled brat. I saw his behaviour last night on the pitch.
This was after the friendly.
Yeah, I understand the frustration that you should have got the armband. He's been, he's a scouser. He's been there 20 years. Blah 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 blah. But to act like that and for it to carry on, because it went on for about 2 minutes.
Was it him and Dominic Szoboszlai?
Yeah, he was having a go at Szoboszlai, who handed the armband over, I think, to Tsimikas. Mm-hmm. And I believe Curtis Jones had the temper tantrum over that. It's just like that behaviour can't happen. Not from a graduate from the academy. He's too into himself. So if he wants to go,
is the source of his frustration not so much the captain's armband in a pre-season friendly, it's the fact he wants to leave, is it?
Yeah, okay, so he wants to leave. Well, okay, now Liverpool have to get the best deal for the football club. That's how it works, okay? You don't get to throw your toys out of the pram and do it slowly, knowing him, and then act like that I just don't understand it. You're playing for one of the biggest football clubs in the world. You came through the system. Behave. Stop. That's all eyes are on you. That's not behind closed doors. That might go on in training and all those things, but you don't want to see that going on actually for millions of people to watch.
And it's not great for Andoni Iraola, fresh in the manager's.
No, and I'm sure he'll move past that. And I think Szoboszlai was asked in the press conference, and he didn't even talk about it. But it's just you hate seeing stuff like that. I really do. I think it's so petulant. Do you know what I mean? So, and then when you're liking Inter Milan's post, okay, we get it. You want to go to Inter Milan, probably last 5 minutes out there.
We finished today chatting transfers, and the old Disney song says we don't talk about Bruno, but you do sense in these transfer chats we're going to do little else until he finally moves to Arsenal. Let's kick off there then with our transfer guru, Ben Jacobs. Hiya, Ben.
Good afternoon.
Where are we at with this at the moment? Is it purely about reaching the figure that Newcastle want and then it will happen, or could there be a twist in the tale?
I think a twist is less likely. There's an optics element because, of course, Newcastle United are welcoming Bruno Guimaraes back to their La Manga training camp in Spain. And naturally, throughout this whole process, Newcastle have always said Arsenal have got to knock on the front door, make a formal offer, and then a deal could be reached. And now Arsenal have done exactly that. Newcastle sources insist it's the first time they've heard from Arsenal in the last few hours and they've turned away a bid. My understanding is that 3 offers have been made and it's a bit more fluid and fast moving than that. And talks remain advanced. And the expectation is that this deal is going to get done. It's a much better look on Newcastle to have Bruno Guimaraes back and the player as well, because he's never said he's going to do what Alexander Isak did and refuse to train or play during pre-season. But Arsenal want this one done really quickly, and it wouldn't at all surprise me if, as we've expected and we've reported on talkSPORT for the last few days and weeks, this is a deal that is going to get done, and now it's one that's going to be finalised relatively quickly, despite the fact that Newcastle insist the last offer that was made, they've turned away.
Arsenal seem to have some sort of, not low-balling, but some quite odd approaches. I mean, they want Vinicius, but they haven't made an offer for him. They wanted Morgan Rogers, but they wouldn't pay what Chelsea would pay. They want Guimaraes, but they don't really want to pay what Newcastle pay. I mean, in the end, if you want these top players, you're going to have to pay for them, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point, particularly with Morgan Rogers, where Arsenal only wanted to go to 80 million and the final price was, of course, 117 million. And that shows you that Arsenal are being really disciplined in the market. Bruno Guimaraes is slightly a different story, according to my information, because suggestions that Arsenal are not paying what it takes are not necessarily the true reality of a negotiation that's happened via third parties and with plausible deniability, therefore, for both Andrea Berta and and Newcastle's hierarchy to say we're not actually in direct talks yet, but we're in an inflated market. And there was never a chance that Bruno Guimaraes was going to go for under 65 million, and unlikely that it will be quite as high as, for example, 100 million. So there's a much smaller gulf in valuation. And you could argue in this inflated market, and given Arsenal's urgency, that somewhere north of 75 million and south of 85 million is a very fair and reasonable price that will suit all parties, which is why there's a confidence from Arsenal that this deal is still going to get done quickly. But I don't think they've lowballed Newcastle United, nor do I think Newcastle have been unreasonable in their valuation. If anything, this is one of the deals where the parties haven't started as far apart comparative to other transfers, and yet you've got to understand how much is going to be the fixed fee, what are the payment terms, what are the add-ons, and all of these form part of these advanced talks before another formal offer is made. And my expectation is that when that new formal offer is made, Arsenal will have confidence that this deal can get done, and it might even be in a matter of hours or days.
Yeah, it feels like it will get done.
Are Arsenal being played around Vinicius Junior? I mean, is this just a ploy to get a better deal out of him and stay at Real Madrid, and because, you know, Arsenal are keen, or do you think this could happen? Has it got a chance?
Yeah, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And if it doesn't get done and he renews in the coming days, then Arsenal fans in particular will feel that they've been played. And yet my information is that there is a genuine push for Vinicius Junior because they've been given some encouragement by the player. But it's equally possible that he just extends, and Vinny Junior is in a perfect position because Real want him to extend and Arsenal want him, and he can use those two things against each other to make a final decision, which, contrary to reports, hasn't been made yet. It's a big week for Vinny Junior. I think by possibly early, if not the middle of this week at the latest, we will get clear direction of travel. And if he's to extend, it will be done quickly. If he decides he wants to go to Arsenal, it doesn't mean the same deal would be done this week, but then there's a green light to start negotiating. And I think the reason why Arsenal are there at the table is not just out of ambition, but also because, contrary to some suggestions, I'm not so sure, according to my information, that Real are comfortable with a no renewal and no sale, which is the third option, and then potentially he leaves in summer 2027. My information is there's two, not three options from Real's perspective. Either renew this week, or they will push Vinicius Junior out the door to get the money, because they don't want to lose him on a free transfer, regardless of the fact that Jose Mourinho would like to keep the player. But it's not his asset, it's not his potential income, and the club, which is more important, and Florentino Perez in particular, doesn't want that scenarios. They could gamble in theory, close the window, and then still try and get a later renewal. But I think this is coming to a head in a matter of days, and Arsenal's interest is genuine, and their belief is they stand a chance. But once again, they might get burned by this because Real Madrid are pushing to get that renewal done sooner rather than later.
Don't they want Diomande, though, Real Madrid? So
well, I think that's happening, isn't it? That's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, Diomande is basically almost agreed pending final details. There are some suggestions out there around kind of historical claims to Diomande from a former agent, and it's definitely true to my understanding that Leipzig are looking for a replacement as well. And all of these things have to run their course, as do things like potential add-ons and payment terms. But there is an alignment essentially for this broad number, give or take, of 120 million euros, which is why, according to my information, the last Real Madrid bid hasn't actually been rejected. It's just been left on the table. And when you leave a bid on the table for now a week, it's usually an indication that you're pretty much there. And then, of course, things have to align, such as finding a replacement and finalising all the small things. But the expectation is that Yan Diomande will be a Real Madrid player. And then does he go on the right, where he's playing for Leipzig? If he goes on the left, then is that even more reason, if Vinny Junior doesn't sign, to try and force the player out? And remember one other thing, irrelevant to either Diomande or Vinny Junior, Jose Mourinho's preference would be Kylian Mbappe is your left winger, and then he'd like a number 9. So there's suddenly a lot of competition for that kind of starting spot on the left-hand side, which is why if Real can't get Vinny Junior to extend, they suddenly might very quickly become very comfortable with a sale.
We've got under a minute left, Ben. We just want to ask you about Miles Lewis-Skelly and this potential move to Manchester United from Arsenal. Where are we at with that?
Well, he's been on the list for quite some time. I think Lewis Hall is higher. Both are difficult. Miles Lewis-Skelly naturally was pushing for more minutes in the earlier part of last season, but then ended up starting a Champions League final in midfield. So Arsenal are calm about that situation. Genuine appreciation, but it would require Arsenal's position to change. And with Lewis Hall, Manchester United are exploring that deal, but Newcastle United don't want to sell and have got a high asking price.
Yeah, they don't want to lose any more players at the moment.
Definitely not.
Ben. We'll catch up with you soon, Ben. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
There we are. That's Ben Jacobs of all very latest on the transfer front. The Transfer Insiders is back this evening from 7 for much deeper dive in all the big transfer stories. There's some Gakpo, Spurs, that mad Victor Osimhen story that broke at the weekend. I'm not really seeing
Another bomber, he says.
Yeah.
Italian for
Jack Grealish to Atletico, all sorts of stories
That's
out there at the
interesting,
moment.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
And so tune in from 7, but obviously stick around next. Adi Oladipo and Gabby Agbonlahor are here with Drive. We'll be back tomorrow amongst our guests. Popping into the studio is the actor and big-time Liverpool fan, David Morrissey, currently appearing in the theatre. Just up the road from our studio. He's going to pop in and see us pre-show and talk a bit of Liverpool and more. So do hope you can join us from 1 tomorrow. If not, the podcast, as always, is available around 4, the H&J Daily. And if you missed any of the early part of today's show, today's one will be up and ready in the next 20 minutes or so. But until then, have a fine evening and stick around for Addy and Gabby coming up next.
It's interesting, this situation with Vinicius Junior, because there were some reports at the weekend that he'd agreed personal terms with Arsenal. Rock Nation, who represent the Real Madrid star, have released a statement hitting out fake news. They said Rock Nation Sports International and our entire team cannot stand idle when unprofessional and uninformed media publish fake and damaging information for attention-seeking purposes. This is especially unacceptable when it personally targets our clients without any foundation. It's disruptive, harmful, and libelous, they say. Media outlets and journalists need to hold themselves more accountable. Now, if Vinicius Junior was that keen on a move to Arsenal, would his agency really have gone so strong in the statement?
No, I think. Look, they've been playing the game, haven't they? Let's be honest. I think Vinicius Junior wants to stay in Real Madrid. I think that's where he sees himself. He's probably using Arsenal to some extent to try and, get probably another 100 grand more on his already probably £1 million a week contract. So for me, Crookie, I think I'm expected that he's going to be staying at Real Madrid. I'll be very surprised if we see him in the Premier League and playing for Arsenal next year.
It's a real tall order, isn't it, for any club in the Premier League to tempt a player from Real Madrid. I was speaking over the weekend. I think it was Darren Goff maybe who made the point, or maybe Tony Cascarino. Dennis Bergkamp in the mid-90s when he left Inter Milan. Serie A was the powerhouse then of European football to join Arsenal.